Enjoy a selection of the best. Regina Ray and Tingazi.
Bado hujamwambia unamlike. Umerealize hajamwachilia mkono kutoka nikuje hapa.
Love blossoms in Mexico with the Trier sisters in Las Bandidas.
I beg you, please don't go.
I want you to be the happiest man in the world with a woman who appreciates and respects you.
An array of music rave.
Make me lie when I don't want to.
Blues.
You are my everything.
Two local gems. And we sit to chat with the Thiambo.
You know, I can't even tell whether you're looking at me, seeing me, with the Louis Vuitton.
Classic comedy.
Makono tu. Mashabiki.
Say that again.
Enjoy the Divas programming this February only on KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Why don't you tell him what I came here for? Tell him.
Stop it. That's enough.
Go ahead. Why don't you tell him? Ask her what happened,
I'm
Dad.
not interested. This whole thing's over.
Just get out of my house. I don't want to see you, simple as that. And it's better if we forget about what happened between us.
What's going on between you and Amparo?
Yes, I accept.
What? Yes to marrying me?
Yes.
Alonso, why? Why did you do this to me? I loved you. Why did this have to happen to me?
So you have a girl now, young man? Is she someone I know?
Charlene, does your father know what you're doing? Does your date know the truth? And Jenny, does she know?
Jenny!
Stop calling me that.
Why can't I call you by your name?
Because I'm not Jenny. Can you pretend that we don't know each other?
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
At my workplace, there's a girl like you. Oh, actually, she is like you when you were young. So much about her makes me confused.
The 21st of February 2023, you're watching Good Morning Kenya. I am Regina Manyara. Now, looking at those stories that are making headlines locally is Millicent Omanga, Dennis Itumbi, Evans Kidero, as well as Catherine Warogoro have made it to the list of proposed, shortlisted actually, persons for the post of Chief Administrative Secretaries. And this is after the courts actually confirmed that the position is indeed legal. 224 potential CASs. We'll be keeping tabs on that particular development. Remember, these are positions that were declared illegal, but now courts confirm that they are indeed legal. Is it an opportunity to award loyalty? That question is going to be answered in not too long. Remember, the interviews are likely to be covered live. And talking about what is making news across the globe is that southern Turkey has been hit by another 6.3 magnitude earthquake just barely 2 weeks after another earthquake had struck Syria and Turkey, killing 44,000, and still thousands remain unaccounted for. This latest quake has so far claimed 4 lives. We'll be keeping tabs on also that particular story, given that also Kenya participated in aiding Turkey and Syria in terms of humanitarian aid. On matters business is that yesterday, the National Assembly Finance Committee recommended the chopping of the Kenya Airways budget by another 1 billion shillings as part of austerity measures, with the members of parliament even suggesting that to stop bleeding the country, or rather the exchequer, through bailouts to KQ that has been perennially making losses, that it is high time that we privatize the national carrier. We'll be keeping tabs on that too. Good morning once again, and it's a full house. Good morning, Victor.
Regina, good to see you. Talk of politics again. The IBC tribunal, which was formed by Justice Agri Muchelule, concluded their hearing yesterday, and now it's time for them to sit and write a report and add it over to President for action. As that is happening, Irene Masit still continues to insist that the tribunal was formed politically, but not under the law. So what are we going to be talking about? That is going to be forming part of our discussion here. I have Dennis Nthumbi, who is one of the petitioners during that case. He'll be here in the studio shortly, as well as Wakili Gibson Gesori, who is also coming shortly in studio. And of course, we are going to also discuss a lot more in the program. So stick around for that until the end of the program. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor Loram. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, Victor. And remember, as we have said, this is Good Morning Kenya. We are live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much for choosing KBC Channel 1. My name is Ram Aguko. Keep engaging with us in the conversations that we are about to have. The news coverage by Regina, Victor Olo has discussions lined up for you. And Doreen, coming up your way. The hashtag as always is Good Morning Kenya, and all our social media handles are up and running. The official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. This is KBC Channel 1, and of course we are still a full house. Doreen also has the things on her side.
Right, and speaking of the Chief Administrative Secretaries, that is the CAS, as Regina rightfully put, it is all systems go. But the burning question is, what was this that made this position unconstitutional then, that now the courts find constitutionality in these positions, so to speak? But as is, it is all systems go as far as CAS is concerned. But also, as we talk about austerity measures, so then what will the state do as far as this is concerned? This has been the biggest issue that this particular regime has been concerned on, trying to cut down on budgets. But here we are, more or less like increasing positions, I should say. Nonetheless, later on the show from 9 a.m. on Matters Health, we'll look at the state of cholera in the country. As we speak, 72 deaths, that is what has been recorded, slightly above 4,000 persons infected with this particular condition. Kenya marked or ranked as one of those top 5 countries as far as cholera outbreak is concerned. So we look at where we are, even as these vaccines have been rolled out, 2 million. Just what is happening in regards to this particular condition as a country? How far has the rollout happened, and just what more measures is the Ministry of Health employing to deal with this cholera outbreak? That is what we shall be talking about from 9 a.m. on our health segment. Beautiful morning to you. Always a pleasure to have you on board. Good morning. And also, before we take it over to Regina on Matters News, very quickly, a good place to meet for me to wish, and just for the entire team to wish our very own. That is Gladys, the lady behind the scenes, the one who is responsible for our sound. Glado, happy birthday to you. Wish you nothing but the very best in life as you begin another year. May God bless you. Happy birthday. Ray, over to you.
Indeed, of New Year's and new beginnings. Well, cheers to many more days around the sun, Gladys, and we're glad that you make it in time to actually ensure that we sound better so that we can deliver what we need to do as anchors here on the Breakfast Show. Now we start off with the news updates, and we are looking at matters of security where locals in Mwatiku village, Laikipia West constituency in Laikipia, are crying foul over illegal herders. They say that the herders are roaming at night, grazing thousands of cattle on their crops despite the existence of a dusk to dawn curfew imposed by the government. Yusuf Farah has the details.
Locals in parts of Mwatiku village in Laikipia West say the ongoing curfew has not yielded much as herders continue to roam with reckless abandon.
Curfew ni ya sisi wananchi wa pande hiyo wakulima, lakini wale wafugaji sio hawawekei curfew.
Tuliamuka kuchukua mawe nje tukatupa shamba na mzee wangu tukatupa mpaka ikaondoka. Tukasema kama ni kuuawa tuuawe, sababu tutaiangalia tu ikimalizia. Sababu sasa ikikula hiyo tuboga tutakula ugani na maji.
A section of area leaders is amplifying their calls for the total lockdown of the region from dusk to dawn to save what remains of their crops.
Watu wetu wakiingia manyumbani kwao wanaingiza mang'ombe yao, na ni maelfu ya mang'ombe wanaingiza kwa mashamba ya wananchi wetu. Saa hii tunaongea, tunajua ile njaa iko na wananchi wetu hawana kitu ya kukula, na hawangekuwa namna hii kama singa higa ilikuwa ni hizo ng'ombe.
Kama curfew ni ya kila mtu aingie kwa nyumba 6.
Locals are concerned that the curfew may fail to yield the intended purpose because it is being applied selectively.
Kuanzia saa hizi hatuwezi lala. Tukiwa na dio, tutaenda mikutano baada ya mikutano. Na nawahakikishia kwamba kutakuwa na mabadiliko kuanzia leo.
The locals recently detained scores of animals in protest of what they termed as continued aggression by the herders. They're calling on the government to ensure the curfew applies to all. The operation in Laikipia is part of wider operations in the north by the government as it seeks to ensure calm and normalcy is restored in the bandit-stricken areas. In Tiati Sub-County, Baringo County, leaders have welcomed the operation that has entered day 4, with the multi-agency teams heavily trooping the area.
Lazima hawa majangili ambao wanasumbua watu warudishe kwenye mkono wa sheria.
Wafanye kazi na DC, wafanye na chief, wafanye na wazee wa nyumba 10. Watushikie bandits. Sisi hatuna shida.
Ikifika saa 12 wewe uwe umetoka. Hakuna mtu atakufukuza. Ikifika saa 12 asubuhi unaweza rejea.
The leaders thanked the president for the move seeking to reach the region of bandits that have for long bedeviled the region.
Be keeping tabs on that security issue. Remember, curfew, that dusk to dawn curfew has been imposed across at least 7 counties there to try and stem the spate of insecurity that is characterized by banditry. Now to the courts, a 62-year-old man has denied 6 counts of sexually molesting and sodomizing 6 minors between the year 2014 and 2019. Martin Herman Bagmonton, alias Mzee, has been remanded at the Nakuru GK prison until Wednesday, when the court will make a ruling on his bail application.
Herman Bauman Gatner, alias Mzee, before Nakuru Senior Resident Magistrate Emmanuel Soita. The German-born businessman, who also enjoys Kenyan citizenship, is alleged to have sodomized 6 minors on diverse dates between November 2014 and April 2019 within Bahati sub-county in Nakuru.
In Western sub-county, Nakuru County, you intentionally and unlawfully penetrated the anus of a minor named VK, age 17 years old, using offense. Is that offense true or false? That's false.
Herman, who has lived in the country for over 40 years, was arrested on February 14 at Kwanyayo area near Kamindu Center, Nakuru, on allegations of sexually molesting young boys.
Your Honor, the accused person provides assistance, financial assistance, to only male children through his company, where he is the sole director. The company called Twajenga Holdings Company Limited.
Mzee also faced 1 count of unlawfully possessing a firearm and 3 charges of human trafficking. Prosecution opposed his release on bond, claiming he was a flight risk owing to his dual citizenship status.
In this case, is charged with very serious offenses. That is consideration number 1 of the bail and bond policy. The attempt to run away is so real, and that is why, Your Honor, to be pleased to deny the accused person bond.
They also noted that the accused was a man of great influence in the area and was likely to interfere with investigations.
What is being done here is a violation of the Constitution, being discriminated on the basis of race. That's why they are saying he's a German. They are not talking about him being a Kenyan.
Herman, a director at Tuajenga Holdings Limited, is said to have been providing financial assistance to male children through his company, with some working for him as employees.
Very interesting development there. We'll be keeping tabs on that and what transpires come Wednesday. Now on to matters still ramping up security, or rather intensifying security, is that government has launched a national-wide crackdown on rogue real estate developers who have been blamed for crumbling buildings in the country. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kindiki Kithure, in issuing the orders, said the government will not stand by and watch rogue contractors flaunting building codes.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki was speaking during the opening of a primary school at the General Service Unit Camp in Juja, Kiambu County. Kindiki directed the National Security and Intelligence Agencies to collaborate with other stakeholders to rein in on rogue contractors.
Hakuna tofauti ya ule landlord anajenga nyumba ambaye inaporomoka na kuua watu 10. Hakuna tofauti ya huyo mtu na ule magaidi ako huko North Rift anaiba ng'ombe na kuua watu.
Kindiki cited deep-rooted corruption in county governments as a cause of the continued mushrooming of substandard buildings in the country. The security boss also called on the public to help the security officers smoke out illegal foreigners.
Wamekodesha manyumba na wengine ndio wale katika siku za nyuma wamepanga mambo ya kuhatarisha usalama wetu kwa sababu ni wahalifu na wameingia hapa kinyume na sheria.
Information, Communication Technology and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says the government is keen on the realization of the digital superhighway as a means of creating cheap and sustainable platform for creative youths to exploit their talents gainfully. He was speaking in Kisumu as he inspected Studio Mashinani, a government project that allows talented Kenyans to record music for free.
There are a lot of artists who come here, sir, and I feel that's an important point to just...
Information, Communication, Technology and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says the government is banking on the digital superhighway to create an enabling environment for the creative economy to flourish.
Apart from the free Wi-Fi's, we are also setting up 1,450 digital hubs at the lowest administrative units within the ward. This is a space where the youth can get trained, get the requisite ICT skills, and then we reach out to tech companies so that we match them with the digital jobs within the digital space.
Owalo says the government will fund 52% of the project, while the remaining 48% will be taken up by the private sector. Owalo spoke as he toured Studio Mashinani Studios in Kisumu County. Studio Mashinani, a government project housed by the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, provides a platform for talented musicians across the country to record music for free.
Tapping into the untapped talent at the grassroots levels within the creative economy. We have quite a number of youth with a lot of potential in the areas like music, but who do not have access to finances for purposes of recording. So this is actually what gave birth to the Studio Mashinani concept.
Already 7 studios in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kitui, Gatanga and Kisumu counties are already operational, while 4 others are under construction in Kisii, Kakamega, Eldoret and Garissa counties. Meanwhile, the CS has reiterated his push to ensure the revamping of Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
So re-engineering the content is imperative. We must re-engineer our content so that it is responsive to the needs of the market. The other issue that we need to address, of course, is staff motivation. We have got staff that is a bit demotivated, perhaps because of historical issues. We are going to undertake a job evaluation to ensure that we come up with salaries and benefits levels that are not just internally competitive, internally equitable, but also externally competitive.
Part of reclaiming KBC's greatness. We'll be keeping tabs on that particular development, and you, our viewer, are welcome to give feedback in regard to where you want to see KBC at least under this new dispensation. Now, suspended Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Commissioner Irene Masit has maintained her innocence against accusations that together with 3 other commissioners, they tried to subvert the will of the people in the 2022 presidential election. Through her lawyer, Donald Kipkorir, Masit dismissed the claims as hearsay based on what was shown on television. Now, as Kamchamanza reports, Masit's fate now lies with the tribunal that concluded the hearings on Monday and now has embarked on writing its report, then presenting it to the president.
Abuse of power.
The Justice Agri Muchelule-led tribunal on Monday received submissions from suspended IEBC Commissioner Irene Masit, who in her defense countered accusations of violating the constitution during the 2022 presidential election results.
My Lord, the evidence of the witnesses is of no evidential value. Their testimonies did not establish the fact in issue, what they call factum probandum. The burden of proof was not discharged by the lead counsel. The charge of conspiracy wasn't proved at all. The evidence of the TV clips is hearsay, and the hearsay, of course, evidence of the witnesses must fail. It never met the legal threshold.
According to Masit, the evidence adduced by 11 witnesses, including retired IEBC Chair Fula Chebukati and current IEBC CEO Marjan Hussein, does not warrant a removal from office.
My Lord, the division of the IEBC commissioners into 2 groups, Cherera 4 and Chebukati 3, the Serena Conference, all those were determined in the High Court, the Supreme Court, and the court made findings on them. What Peter Munge wants you to do is to revisit, to review that, the holding of the Supreme Court.
There is no evidence that has been presented to show that any court anywhere within this great republic addressed the issue of removal of the commissioner or any of the commissioners pursuant to Article 251 of the Constitution. And therefore, the issues before the Supreme Court are distinct from the issues that are before it.
Lead counsel Peter Munge, however, faulted Masit for refusing to take the stand to rebut the witnesses' evidence.
My Lord, Mr. Chair and members, there is evidence that specific people who are aligned to one political divide, and there's clear evidence on that, went to the rooms where the commissioner and others were staying. She did not rebut that evidence. She did not rebut it. And therefore, that evidence is unchallenged.
The impartiality of the tribunal also cropped up.
Yes, there have been criticisms, including counsel asking us to deal with our conscience in this matter. I think on our part we consider that every criticism that there was went to enrich this process, and it will not be taken in any other manner.
Whether or not Masit will survive the probe now lies with the tribunal that wound up the hearings Monday ahead of presentation of its findings and recommendations to the president. The process to establish a new commission has already kicked off.
We'll not try and preempt that particular report, but we'll wait and see the outcomes as well as the recommendations to the president there. Now we delve into matters business, where the National Assembly Finance and National Planning Committee has reduced by 1 billion shillings a proposed government bailout to Kenya Airways. This means the airline will now get 19 billion shillings from the national coffers to fund its operations and revamp. Also, MPs opined that it needs to be privatized to reduce its reliance on public coffers.
Kenya Airways has been loss-making for about a decade. This has seen the airline opt for shareholder cash injection to fund its operations. Among the key shareholders of the airline is the government that has in recent years been pumping billions of shillings to keep the Kenya Airways in the air. However, legislators say the cash calls by KQ can be avoided if the airline is privatized.
Industry like those to be managed by the government. And therefore, the best thing to do is to prioritize to privatize them so that at least we can get value of them.
In the current financial year, the government was to inject 20 billion shillings into KQ's operations, but the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning has recommended that the amount be reduced by 1 billion shillings.
Kenya Airways, we cannot continue to be allocating these funds to it. We really need to make a decision. And this 19 billion shillings that we're even suggesting that we give it a capital injection, I wish we didn't have to.
The committee has also shot down a proposal that a 6.14 billion shillings be spent on buying out the stake held by Helios in Telkom Kenya to make the telco fully owned by the government.
But as a committee now we're coming up with tightening regulations so that we make it more difficult for any executive to abuse Article 223 and especially during a transition process.
The committee has instead recommended the Auditor General to conduct a special audit on the Helios Telkom Kenya transaction.
Now some good news to SACCOs, where the second phase of the Hustler Fund will be advanced on credit, based on credit worthiness of the targeted startups, micro, small and medium enterprises as well as groups. Cooperative Development Cabinet Secretary Simon Chelogui says borrowers will have up to 1 year to repay the loan.
Our revenue grew from 4.2 billion to 5.01 billion. That has enabled us to make available return to the membership of 2.04 billion, and that is what we are going to pay as 8% on interest on deposits and then 12% dividend on share capital.
We are even in negotiation. You remember we promised you, we see whether is it possible once somebody passes on, because some of the families don't have money for burial, can that money come from Arambe and then we claim from CIC? Now those are discussions which we are discussing now to ensure we continue to better it.
We have come up with a eligibility criteria, one of them being a credit worthiness of the group, ability or rather you've borrowed from other institutions and you have been able to service. And we're also going to engage in financial rehabilitation. So the existing groups who have non-performing loans will be given a lower percentage of what they will qualify, because what we want to do is to create access but also manage risk. So we are not excluding any member, any group, but we will be able to mitigate that risk by lowering the amount that particular group will be accessing.
Good news there for startups and MSMEs. Now, Kenya is seeking funding from the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO to combat the Quelea bird invasion in parts of Kisumu and Narok. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi says this is part of steps by the government to address the issue of birds that are a threat to rice and wheat production.
The government early this year allowed importation of 100,000 tons of rice on a duty-free basis to bridge the deficit. However, the government deficit might widen after the Quelea bird invasion of rice fields in Kisumu, threatening 2,000 acres under rice. Kenya is in talks with the Food and Agriculture Organization for funds to manage the Quelea birds that have also invaded wheat farms in Narok.
We have explained to him the challenges that we are meeting, we are having as a country, and especially with the control and fight with the fall armyworm and the Quillian bands, and they will be telling you what we've discussed.
Part of the money will be spent on tackling invasion of fall armyworms.
So through the professional dialogue and matchmaking cooperation, we will help you
to make the agricultural transformation more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable.
FAO has committed 660 million shillings on the Kenya Integrated Agriculture Management Information System Digitization Program that will inform policy reforms.
Once you have enough technology, enough investment, and we can do more and better. Of course, you have a lot of challenges. FAO is a professional organization. We cover all the agriculture, forestry, animals, and fishery.
Now let's speak sports, where the Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Babu Namwamba, Monday presided over the commissioning of the World Rally Championship Safari Rally project at the Kenya National Library Service, Nairobi, ahead of the main event scheduled for June 22nd to the 25th of this year in Naivasha. Namwamba, who on Tuesday last week called for a meeting with the KMSF board and IAF officials to discuss the changes at the WRC Safari Rally, assured that the global event is on as earlier planned.
Speaking during the event, which was also attended by the Principal Secretary of State Department for Youth Affairs and the Arts, Ismail Malim, and Turkana North MP Paul Nabuin, the vibrant CS reiterated the need of prudent use of resources invested in the global rallying spectacle by the Kenyan government.
We demand no less for the resources government is putting in and for the resources sponsors are putting in. Sponsors, kama mnataka yenu itumike huku, kule, pale, hapa, that is up to you. But for the resources government is putting in place, we are going to be very, very keen on how you're using those resources.
Making the appointment through a Kenyan Gazette notice, Namwamba said that the members of both steering committee and organizing committee will serve 1 year starting January 4th this year.
We want to see more women drivers in this rally. We want to see young people, youth. I know we have a very vibrant team of young people, our youthful drivers. We want to see them really participating in this thing strongly.
The chairperson of the organizing committee for the WRC and African rally champion Carl Tundo on his part promised to deliver a top-notch event that will meet the expectation of all those seeking to take part. Namwamba will be the chairperson of the steering committee and will be deputized by the Principal Secretary for Sports, Jonathan Mweke. Kenya Motorsports Federation Chairman Phineas Kimanthi is the secretary of the steering committee, which will also have several members, while Tundo will chair the organizing committee and will be deputized by Brian Mutembei.
And the Magical Kenya Open Golf Tournament is on and will be held on the 9th to the 12th of March at the Muthaiga Golf Club. This follows quite a major boost of receiving of 70 million shillings from the ABS Bank. For details and stories that have been making headlines in sports, business as well as the political scene, our website is open for your perusal. www.kbc.co.ke. That effectively puts a cap into matters in the headlines this morning. Be sure to keep it right here. We have a candid conversation coming your way, looking at, the proposed 224 shortlisted candidates for the position of Chief Administrative Secretaries, as well as what is happening on the political scene, looking at the IEBC, Irene Masit there maintaining her innocence, and now we are waiting the report of the tribunal and the recommendations that they will make to the president. The recruitment exercise for new IEBC commissioners is already underway. Do keep it KBC Channel 1 for information as well as lots of entertainment. I'm Regina Manyara. Have a pleasant day ahead.
I don't think you're ready for that one yet.
What happened to not hogging the ball?
Yes, you could hog. I just think you're not ready yet.
Aki baba mwani nikikupata huku wewe, yani unibia mbao yangu, ukamkukunywa. Hiki kibaba ni kiera gani? Hiki kibaba ni... Wacha nikushike wewe.
Abuda, kuna noma nini?
Labda tuambie.
Si ara tuna noma. Ara ni kujitoa tuko najitoa.
So you said you're showing me evidence. I want to see it for myself. Plus the little boys, kwani what are they going to do? Ziggy! Ziggy, please, can you please stop? Please, say dear, someone help us! Ziggy!
Charlene, does your father know what you're doing? Does your date know the truth? And Jenny, does she know?
Jenny!
Stop calling me that.
Why can't I call you by your name?
Because I'm not Jenny. Can you pretend that we don't know each other?
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
At my workplace, there's a girl like you. Oh, actually, she is like you when you were young. So much about her makes me confused.
Now 60 minutes past 7 a.m. Let me take you through the front page of our local dailies. Let me start with the People Daily. On the front page of the People Daily, state agencies face budget cuts. State agencies face budget cuts on the supplementary spending. Development tax 106 billion shillings slash. That's what's on the front page of the People Daily, with the recurrent allocation up. Teachers offered 6.4 billion shillings more, and roads trimmed. Now, we have the 3.36 trillion shillings. That is the amount which was approved as national budget in June 2022. We also have 3.37 trillion shillings, the new amount after the supplementary budget before Parliament today. And we also have 10 billion shillings cut in Ministry of Defense budget, despite ongoing crackdown on banditry. And finally, we have got 1 billion shillings additional reduction in the money proposed by the Kenya Airways bailout. That is on the front page of the People Daily. State agencies face budget cuts. And still there, you can scroll. Gachagua, it will be first come, first served in Kenya Kwanza. That is on the top right of the People Daily. Gachagua, it will be first come, first served in Kenya Kwanza. Let me give you just brief of what's happening here. Outrage as over DP way of sharing pie with Azimio allies. That is on the second page. Rigathi Gachagua says that opposition party defectors will have to wait longer for goodies as priority will be given to Kenya Kwanza. Beg your pardon. It's a case of Johnny come lately, and Ruto and Rigathi met Nyanza MPs and introduced them to key officials who will be central in implementing all the development, implementation of the development request in reciprocation for their political support inside and outside Parliament in the face of weekly rallies that Raila has been organizing. So there you have it. It's now a case of outrage over DP way of sharing pie with Azimio. And of course, the list is out of the list of CSs. The list is out already, and in that list, a couple of names we've seen. Very strong names, very familiar names. Of course, the likes of Jubilee, we have Ivan Kidero, former governor, and so many more. We have got Cleophas Malala, former senator of Kakamega, and so many other names that are also set for the due process before they're officially appointed to the position of the CSS. That is on the second page, and there, Church urges Kenyans to seek treatment locally. Church urges Kenyans to seek treatment locally. Leadership of SDA stated that the funds used abroad should be reinvested in Kenya. There you have it. Leaders of SDA stated that the funds used abroad should be reinvested in Kenya. The president of the General Conference of SDA Church East Africa Division, Pastor Dr. Blesius Ruguri, said that the amount of money shipped out of the country can actually be used in the country for investment, and how Kenyans now can get treatment locally. All right, on the fourth page, very quickly, budget cuts for security agencies, risky. MPs now warn. Defense Committee says that reducing cash allocations in Defense Ministry and NIS could compromise safety. The members of the team were meeting the legislators yesterday to defend their budget ahead of today's sitting of the National Assembly, during which MPs will debate the first supplementary budget under the Ruto administration. So the plenary session will, however, the move prompted the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Parliamentary Committee to justify to the Budget Committee why such funding cuts should not be implemented. All right. That is on the front page and a few pages of the PP Daily. Just to alert you that in studio I have already my first guest, Dennis Tumbi, already in studio here. Dennis, good morning and welcome to KBC.
Asante sana.
We're also waiting for
Glad
Wakili.
to be here.
Asante, karibu sana. Also waiting for Wakili Gibson Gesori, who will be joining me shortly. But let me start with the front page of the People Daily. Dennis, state agencies face budget cuts. The first debate slated for today in the National Assembly. What do you make of this?
I think we are in a place where we seriously have to check our spending, repurpose financing. There are other areas within our economy that are critical. And even before we start debating, I want to send my greetings and salutations to Kenyans this morning and to let them know that all is going to be well. So it's absolutely important for us to relook at our budgeting processes. You know, our revenue streams, our cost outlines, and then we look at our priorities. And our priority right now is essentially ensuring that this country is food sufficient and food secure. We have a very, very serious issue of, you know, climate change. And when you Google this country, you realize that Kenya is fast becoming a desert. You realize that the sun is more harsh. Yeah. The nights are hotter. And essentially what is going to happen is that once the sea table rises, even if you sink a borehole anywhere in the world or anywhere in the country, then you're likely to get seawater, and that's salty water. And with that kind of environment that is not sustainable for food sufficiency, then we seriously need to rethink of what our priorities are as a nation. And then also we have the issue of joblessness, of, you know, many other Kenyans are fallen out of jobs, companies are struggling and many other things. And also government is forming itself. I did know sincerely that there's so many bottlenecks and bureaucracies in terms of His Excellency putting a government together. I think we have put ourselves in a rut in the name of democracy and checks and balances, that we haven't given the executive the latitude to establish a government fast and act fast.
Yes.
And I think based on all the rigmaroles and the bottlenecks and we have put ourselves in the name of democracy, it's possibly going to take a year for him to establish a functional government that's going to answer to the majority of the needs of Kenyans. Of course, as it is now, he can deliver what he can. But by the time all the state agencies are done, by the time he cleans up what needs to be cleaned up, but also we are looking at a nation that was captured for over 50 years. There is a lot of damage that needs to be corrected. There's a lot of redigging, you know, that needs to happen. There's a lot of rerouting, repurposing. So we are looking at almost the recreation of a new nation. And it's going to take a while. But I realized, and I was speaking to my colleagues, and I said, oh my goodness, maybe the president only functions for 4 years, because for the first year, then he needs to do audits, he needs to relook at former structures, he needs to see what didn't work, what needs to work. He needs to check on finances that has been abused and many other things. He needs to look at the health of state institutions and organizations and all that. And then he needs then to ensure that he functions and he remodels the state to be able to answer to the critical needs of the day, but also answer to the vision that he has put the nation to.
But that is happening. It's budget cuts is not something new in the country, and perhaps it's now a point of all these agencies to get used to the situation or also readjust their budgets as well.
Yeah, so budget cuts, essentially, the budget had already been approved by the previous regime. So when the new regime comes in, then they have to relook at their priorities, as I said, and you have to repurpose financing. And some of that, there's a lot of wastage, you know, that comes in there. And the question of, and answering to the question of posterity, then you have to look at spend that is not necessary and take that money and put it where you want to answer the critical needs. And I think then it's not the fact that government is being constrained and that it's not going to function. No, it's just that there are other issues that then must be prioritized.
Yes. If you look at what's on the front page of the People Daily, Gachagua, it will be first come, first served basis for the Kenya Kwanza. And now there's an outrage over DP's way of sharing pie with Azimio. This, somebody would say that was expected, because at the end of the day, they're coming way late into the park, and now you have the rightful owners who campaigned, remodeled, and made that party what it is. So at the end of the day, now there's an outrage.
It's important to understand that even in Parliament does not recognize a party called Azimio. The party that represents Azimio in Parliament is Jubilee and ODM. Azimio is an entity in Parliament. It's also important to recognize that there are three arms of government, and those three arms of government are checked by the citizens of this country. So you have the executive, you have the judiciary, you have the legislature. In legislature, we have ODM and Jubilee MPs. They're in government. That is government, you know, at the end of the day. And it means that they have a role in government. When you look at Article 1 of the Constitution, where the sovereign will is enshrined in the people, then the people must be directly involved in governance, public participation, the assets that we get in public participation and all that. And I believe that what our Honorable DP is alluding to, you know, people who are in tune with the mindset that delivers the vision of Kenya Kwanza. And then if you bring in somebody who thinks differently, then that vision will not be met. And so he has ways of he speaks in a very interesting way that we call them, idioms and a certain way to deliver specific message.
Yeah.
But his message is the vision of the government must be delivered by the visionaries. And the visionaries really who birthed the new government is Kenya Kwanza. But however, the arms of government themselves, they have everyone on board, and this nation also has to be administrated and checks and balances given by every other mwananchi. We don't expect the county government or the national government to do anything whatsoever without the concept of public participation being brought into administrating that civilization in itself. So if the people don't want it, the government cannot do it.
Absolutely.
And if the government does not create an opportunity to speak to the people who have given them the mandate, and that mandate expires any time or within 5 years, then that thing shouldn't be done. And the priority of Kenyans right now is ensure that we can afford life, ensure that food is sufficient, ensure that governance is proper, ensure that all the destabilization that comes from insecurity and many of those things is dealt with. There's a specific mandate that the hustlers sent this government to do, and that then becomes a priority of the day.
Then, Dennis, it means that all those Azimio allies who decided to support the Kenya Kwanza government, which is democratic, by the way, went there with an expectation, and now the expectation is now being controlled or managed in a certain way.
I don't think so, because it's members of parliament, they are government. We must dissuade ourselves from the persuasion that government is only the executive. Members of parliament, that is government. It's an arm of government. You understand?
Yes.
Those are ODM MPs who are going to discuss developments. And we must create a balance of depoliticizing developments at the end of the day. You understand?
Yes.
So if an ODM MP wants to meet the executive and discuss about the projects that he has within his constituency, that is government discussing
the fact that you see that now there's an outrage there, then it means there was high expectation even from members of Azimi, of ODM, who joined, been spotted in State House, they've been spotted with the deputy president. And now, when you talk of development, then what kind of development were they expecting if it's now a point of John, come lately?
Victor, it's very important for us to understand the constitution, our system of governance. Our system of governance is devolved. If anybody from Azimio wants development, they have an MCA, they have a governor. And within that area, it's their village people who are there. They can go and decide, we don't want toilets, we want roads. You understand? This over-dependency with the executive is the disease that we fought against, even in the last regime. Developments are discussed at the local level. That's why we say politics are local. We have to move away from this obsession of thinking that if you want a road in Homa Bay, Homa Bay, you have a governor. And then if that governor then has the opportunity to speak to the president and say, you know what, help me deliver what needs to be delivered here, then that should be delivered. But the country we have a constitution that is all-inclusive at the end of the day.
Let's take a break, Dennis. Let's take a break, and we come back. We're just going to pick it from there. You've raised a very salient point there. Development is devolved. All right, then what are they looking for in State House? That's another question, just as simple as such. All right, more after this break. Stay with us.
tell him what I came here for. Tell him.
Stop it. That's enough.
Go ahead. Why don't you tell him? Ask her what happened,
I'm
Dad.
not interested. This whole thing's over.
Just get out of my house. I don't want to see you, simple as that. And it's better if we forget about what happened between us.
What's going on between you and Amparo?
Yes, I accept.
What? Yes to marrying me?
Yes. Alonso, why? Why did you do this to me? I loved you. Why did this have to happen to me?
So you have a girl now, young man? Is she someone I know?
Sauti ya Kenya
92.9. Hii ni KBC Radio Taifa.
kila kitu maishani kina sauti yaleta furaha.
Radio.
Sauti ya elimisha yahimiza yatuleta pamoja. Sauti ya Kenya
Radio Taifa.
Sauti ya Kenya.
Charlene, does your father know what you're doing? Does your date know the truth? And Jenny, does she know?
Jenny,
Stop calling me that.
why can't I call you by your name?
Because I'm not Jenny. Can you pretend that we don't know each other?
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
At my workplace, there's a girl like you. Oh, actually, she is like you when you were young. So much about her makes me confused.
All right, welcome back. Now, still in studio, I have got Dennis Tumpe, political analyst. Gibson Gisore should be joining me here shortly. There is a question I asked you before we took a break. Let me just ask you. So, development is devolved. So, what trip takes them to State House then? If it's about development agenda.
I think it's absolutely important to understand that I think His Excellency has voiced himself that he will run an all-inclusive government. It's not a government that is split in the middle or a government that has a deep state or cartels or whatever it is that there is, or developments are for a specific kind of region or a specific kind of people. And it's absolutely vital for us to understand that we have a devolved system and that resources are shared at the parliamentary level. And that parliament is an arm of government and has ODM and Jubilee in it. So when resources are being shared across the country, they are being shared by all political parties and all political players. It's not a kind of cabal that sits somewhere in treasury and decides this area will get nothing and another area will get nothing at the end of the day. We have an all-inclusive government that is enshrined in how it administrates its affairs within the constitution. So that's nothing that should worry us at the end of the day. And if anybody feels aggrieved, then we have the judiciary, and His Excellency respects the rule of the law.
Yeah.
You saw like the appointments that you mentioned this morning in terms of CSs, he never touched them until the courts approved them. You saw that somebody went to court and suspended the vetting of permanent secretaries. He never contested it in any way. He has never so far negated any direction or will of the court. He has respected that because that's the voice of a Kenyan somewhere who feels aggrieved, you know. So this is not, people shouldn't accept a nature and a disposure of the past regimes. This is a new regime that means that every person, whichever corner of the earth you are, whichever corner of the country you are, development should reach you there, and there should never be an excuse that this country is demented or segmented in any way, and it's serving a few people within their privileges or access to government.
Let's go to the next.
And so I approve fully the fact that MPs, it doesn't matter from which party you come from, you should access the executive because you're both government at the end of the day. And one cannot work without another. There's an interdependence that is a healthy ecosystem for this country to navigate forward.
All right.
Otherwise, if the executive decides to work you know, they're on a hill somewhere, they cannot be accessed, and parliament on the other side, then government will not function entirely, you know.
Dennis, on page 6 of the Star newspaper, Masit pours cold water on tribunal as hearing ends. Masit pours cold water on tribunal as hearings end. IEBC commissioner's lawyer claims proceedings of tribunal led by Justice Agri Muchelule were politically motivated. Dennis, hold on to that. I'll come back later on. You know why. On the front page of the Standard newspaper, very quickly, Joker or Rogue DP? That's the big question. Case of Gachagua. Joker or Rogue DP? Case of Gachagua. We have got, whereas the deputy president has come off as a straight talker, or a man who shoots straight from the hip, his remarks and actions are increasingly seen as unsustainable or unsuitable for a person occupying the second most powerful office. Whereas the deputy president has come off as a straight talker or a man who shoots from the hip, his remarks and actions are increasingly seen as unsuitable for a person occupying the second most powerful office. You can take a look at that story. It's what's on the front page of the Standard newspaper, almost the same thing with what you have on the People Daily. There you have it. Masit fate now in the hands of Judge Muchelule. That is on the inner pages here. There is a new case of a new mosquito species that could wipe out malaria gains. And now new species is said to be unique since it thrives in man-made containers such as jerrycans, tires, open tanks, and underground tanks, and in polluted environments. So most likely it's not found along the lake region, the western side of the country, but now even where you are, it can be found. Very quickly, on the second page here, the true price of a cup of tea. Sexual abuse in Kenya farms. Sexual abuse in Kenya farms. It's also said that one woman said she had been infected with HIV by her supervisor after being pressured into having sex with him. And Unilever says that it was deeply shocked and saddened by the allegations. A case of one company being accused of not kind of decent acts. All right, very quickly, the story of that mosquito. Cambridge now discovers new mosquito species that spreads malaria faster. You can take a look at that story in depth on page 4. Rushing on this one, the case of Rogue DP or the People's Man. There's a question mark there. So Gachagua said that Kenya Kwanza will give priority to supporters in government appointments. DP over the weekend defied court orders and led reconstruction of houses on disputed land. This is more of the same what we have on the People Daily here. So the question of Rogue DP or People's Man.
First of all, you have to understand that there's a lot of truth in what His Excellency the Deputy President said. I mean, why would you expect state appointments if you're on the opposing side? It doesn't make sense. And I said at the end of the day, those ones who are appointed in states are visionaries, they're functionaries. They are people who share the same vision. You know, light cannot mix with darkness. Two cannot work together unless they agree. Those are just common principles. And he used different idioms and he has been misquoted before. But, you know, I mean, you cannot employ somebody here in KBC if they don't agree to the ethics and to the vision of KBC. You know, you employ people who want to work here and people who agree with the vision. You know, you can't have saboteurs in government. You can't have rebellious people in government at the end of the day. And essentially that is what His Excellency Gachagua is saying. And he's a man of the people. He's an honest man, you know, at the end of the day. And he's loved. You know, he's one of the best political strategist, I know.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to put that kind of man down. And so essentially what he's saying is that state appointments are for those ones who birthed this vision, and for those ones who believe in this vision, and for those ones who will drive this vision without sabotaging it or without introducing any nature of rebellion whatsoever.
Okay.
And I think that is usually
as you talk about that, Director, plus you can just go to page 8 of the Standard. Just flip over to page 8. There you have it. Thank you so much. Masit awaits fate as tribunal ends hearing, retreats to write report. Again, something that is quite close to your heart. Now, let me take you to the People Day, the Daily Nation Director. Please just hold on to that, coming to it shortly. Just a sneak peek. Masit awaits fate as tribunal ends hearing, retreats to write report. Thank you very much. On the front page of the Daily Nation, very quickly, big names in race for CSS. Big names in race for CSS. We have got, in the list we have got Dr. Ivan Skidero, Bishop Mongot Wanjiru, Mr. James Ongwae, former governor. We have Miss Adelina Mwau, Samuel Tunai, etc., etc. Now, it all's with the president. Now, former governors and scores of poll losers are among those who have been shortlisted for the post of Chief Administrative Secretary position, days after the court allowed President William Ruto to make the appointment. So that is also on the front page of the Daily Nation. And as well as that, Uhuru loses allies, Mount Kenya court as political gambles fall flat. Uhuru loses allies, Mount Kenya clout as political gambles fall flat. What is it? Wetangula law firm hired by electoral agency, firm linked to House Speaker, pre-qualified by IEBC. And there is a very interesting story here. I think this is quite for you to read that. Triplets joy for cancer survivor. Triplets joy for cancer survivor. There we have. She was a former staffer here at the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
Wow.
Bunts of joy, right? Yes.
It's a blessing.
It's a blessing. So there we have it. She's called Faith Musoli, who holds her 3-month-old triplets. And she's also a cancer survivor. A story of resilience and of a soldier. And finally, on the Star newspaper, why DP Gachagua is on the eye of a storm. I have no idea why the 3 newspapers almost running the same story.
Very queer, right?
Why DP Gachagua is in the eye of a storm. Opposition MPs threaten to lead anti-taxation campaigns in the regions. And now, critics say that Deputy President is openly abetting tribalism in the civil service. It can never be a coincidence that 3 newspapers independently having almost the same story.
Although one of my deep worries and concerns is that sincerely journalism driven by ethics will return into this country. And the fourth estate put us in a lot of trouble in 2022. Some of us were on the opposing sides and we were in those newsrooms and we knew the conversations. These are our friends and colleagues. And they were captured. And I pray that honest reporting and honest journalism, because journalism emanates from Chapter 4 of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. There is no act within the Constitution that specifies that journalism comes from anywhere. It comes from the right that this should also be the mouthpiece of the people. It should be the heartbeat of the people, at the end of the day. So something that comes from the Bill of Rights that is abused, and therefore it's negating the very free will of the people and the very voice of the people. Those who have published it have been party to persecuting the current government, and they know it. And these are sponsored headlines, and they are priming the deputy president in a wrong way because they don't like him, and because they are owned by the enemies of the deputy president at the end of the day. This is not journalism. This is a criminal venture that owns a publicity house. And we need to caution them in the highest way possible, because they are offending that very Bill of Rights.
On behalf of my colleagues in the media house, allow me to play the role of a devil's advocate. Our work is to hit the nail where people are afraid to hit the nail.
I agree.
If it's the case, if it's A, it's A. It's B, it's B.
No,
I stand by it.
unfortunately, journalism must shape up in this country. I'm telling you the truth.
So this is
and I
now
believe
this
to see,
negative
sincerely,
journalism.
I'm saying, you know, this is sponsored journalism. It's
No.
not journalism.
No.
It's sponsored journalism. You can agree with me or you can't agree with me. But at the end of the day, we have seen media houses in this country that are driving an agenda that does not emanate from the Bill of Rights, and that agenda is sponsored by competitors within the political field.
I beg to differ with that.
No, it's the truth. You can beg to differ, but many Kenyans know that. And if you want me to call out their names, I can call out their names. And I can point out to the stories that have been stories that are sponsored and are supposed to prime in narratives that are negative. And these media houses are sponsoring hate and they're sponsoring rebellion. And it's absolutely unfortunate.
But we all agree that the state of media in this country has grown over the years.
Media is not, there's no holiness in media that we can't call them out. You understand? It is not a holy ordinance that we can't tell them that they are wrong. There is a problem with journalism in this country. And unfortunately,
I feel abused.
Media council.
I feel abused.
No, it's okay. But you know, you and I have been on these roads for a while. You know, you're not one of those rogue journalists. And I can tell you the truth. And unfortunately, although speaking, even before God, there are some journalists in this country that are part of the rebellious culture of ensuring that this nation sinks. And I can tell you, post-election violence in 2007, media was taken to ICC. It was taken to ICC. And I don't think it has shaped to date. I don't think so. There are people in this country who are journalists, but in their hearts, they are wearing fatigues that they want this country to sink and to have bloodshed.
We all know that international media also have different,
I've seen the likes of CNNs and many of those guys being sponsored media houses. But I'm just praying that God raises a breed of journalists who speak the truth. Speak the truth. Nobody's against the truth. I pray that there can be the truth. Look, hold the government in check and speak the truth. Bring news that is the truth. If someone is on the wrong, someone is on the wrong.
If we look,
but you understand.
On the flip side, even the good book says that even Jesus was afraid of the waandishi wa habari. I mean, he would say that ako wapi ati wako huko waandishi wa habari. Even he was afraid of. You know that better.
No, I'm just calling out rogue journalists, and they're there. They're there, and I'm praying that sometimes it's better to repent.
What if it works to the advantage of the DP? Because he'll read these stories. Of course, he has the papers on this desk.
But look, I mean, we know that he has been assaulted several times. But I'm just saying, in 2022, one of the areas that I aggrieved much is that media houses were sponsored to sink this country and abate an agenda that is unholy. There was an unholy alliance between media houses and politicians that wanted to sink this country. And I'm praying that God will raise media houses and journalists that speak the truth. It doesn't matter whether that truth threatens their own life.
I promise.
But they cannot be bold.
Dennis, I promise to have another segment specifically for that.
Call them. I want an honest conversation with them. Because let me tell you something. Without honest journalism, do you know, without honest journalism, this country cannot stand. It can't.
Hold on to that.
But with a segmented journalism, this country will sink.
Let's go back to the story on page 8 of the Standard newspaper. Masit awaits fate as tribunal ends hearing, retreats to write a report. There is a reason why I've held that story. First of all, Dennis, you are a key player in the whole of this Agri-Muchelule-led tribunal. First of all, what was your role?
Pursuant to Articles 37, 119 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 219, 233, and Article 251.1 that specifies on the removal, of a constitutional office holder, I petitioned Parliament for the removal of the 4 IBC officers. So I'm essentially petitioner 001. And I took my petition back in November to the clerk of the National Assembly, and I waited for that to happen. It took a bit of a while. I prayed about it, and at the end of the day, it got the green light, and Parliament called us, JLAC, we sat there, we petitioned, we went through, and it was one of my nastiest experiences. I'd never thought that there was the level of darkness in that IBC was that. And the reason why I did that is because I realized if we don't deal with this mess, if we don't deal with this institution as it is, then we are never going to get elections right in this country. I was in Bomas majority of the days. In fact, I think I only missed 2 days. I was in Bomas and I saw the kind of darkness that was perpetrated in Bomas, and I saw sort of the permutations that were set to ensure that the role of IBC fails. Its integrity completely is blotted out, and every other player that was supposed to adjudicate proper presidential elections didn't materialize. And I realized that as a citizen, I have the role to petition Parliament, essentially to get these officers off. There was a ruling by Justice Mrima, and that ruling essentially cast serious aspersions on the formation of the selection panel. And so that selection panel has been corrected through an amendment in Parliament. And so we have a different selection panel. Then that selection panel, we hope that now they'll bring in good officers. Proper commissioners. The selection panel will not be as it was one-sided quite strongly. Mm-hmm. It could be controlled by politicians.
Yes. But what was the case of petition?
My petition was to petition Parliament to ask the President to remove the 4 officers from office.
Why? What were the salient points there?
Article 251(1) essentially specifies why an officer should be removed. And if you read my petition, which I always walk around with it, mm-hmm. I listed several things. Number one, the gross misconduct, incompetence, and serious violations of the constitutions. And out of those three issues, I had 16 charges against all the commissioners at the end of the day. 3 of them decided to resign. Irene Masit stayed on to fight. And essentially what the tribunal provides, it provides for the right to be heard, mm-hmm. and the tribunal was just for this one commissioner who needed to be heard and listened. And so the commission, we finished the hearings yesterday. The tribunal will be able to give recommendations to the President. Mm-hmm. And so within the parliamentary processes, I was a petitioner, but within the tribunal, I was a witness at the end of the day, because the tribunal is a formal court that has been established to hear both sides. However, I need to say this: out of the 16 charges, I'm even shocked what Nation has written there. There was she did not challenge any of the 16 charges. I didn't receive any response back, and any charge that has not been challenged at the end of the day then stands as a true charge. The only thing that they did at the tribunal was cross-examine. But she never challenged any of them.
Through her lawyer, Donna Kipkorir, she made last-ditch attempt to convince the tribunal to acquit her of all the charges against her.
Acquit her how? You never challenged any of the charges. You never contested any. Even the cross-examination was so funny because it was not even centered on the real issues. It was more of insulting the witnesses and discrediting the witnesses rather than the charges. So I'm even surprised that there's absolutely no credibility in what Irene Masit brought to the tribunal. And I think she made many decisions. She made terrible decisions to agree with one side of the political divide as a commissioner in Bomas. And she made a terrible decision, again, in terms of the legal team that she put on board, because none of the charges were challenged. None of them. There was no filing. I didn't receive anything. All the 16 charges stand as they were, completely unchallenged. Every evidence that was brought on court, and I don't want to discuss it further because this is still an issue that is active in court. But what I'm saying is that none of my 16 charges were challenged.
Okay.
And if none of my 16 charges were accusations that were charged or that were challenged, then it means that they stand as truth. None of the evidence that was adduced in court was challenged.
You know, accusations or maybe, you know, words across the corridors and across the street is that tribunal was formed with a predetermined outcome.
Not accurate. Did you see the mess in Bomas? Did you see it? Victor, did you see it? I'm asking you.
I was here.
So you saw it. You saw it on TV.
You were the one
that predetermined?
You were the one who was at
No. Every Kenyan saw it. The split in Serena. I saw it on TV. You covered it here, KBC. If you saw it, then how can we say that the accusations against her are politically predetermined? You understand? There were witnesses, one after another. There was evidence, one after another. Again, in terms of what she did, you know. So how can her action that she did willingly to violate the law be predetermined? By what nature? And if it was political, by the way, are you aware that it's very surprising that even the government of the day decided to respect the constitution and put a tribunal in place, and the tribunal was properly constituted. She had a right. Parliament, she refused to appear. And the tribunal, she appeared, not answering even one single charge, but to cross-examine the witness. If you cross-examine the witness, you negate your right to defend yourself. Because, and I'm telling you, as a petitioner, none of my 16 charges were answered to. None of them, I did not get any file back. It means that she believed she did those things and she never really wanted to challenge them. None of the evidences that were adduced in court were rebutted by her. None whatsoever.
What happens in this case is that now it's quite unfortunate that Irene Masid is not here to respond to to have a rebuttal. And of course, the tribunal now will have to write a report.
I am saying as a petitioner and as somebody who was present all the days, and I'm just giving you a chronological event of what happened during the JLAC committee meetings, during the petitioning in Parliament, and during the tribunal proceedings. And it's exactly that. All she did was appear with some large files, but nothing has been formally rebutted. Nothing has been formally rebutted at the end of the day. And even the counsel that she chose, the counsel went ad hominem. The counsel was more it's more attack the witnesses more than attack the issues of the charges. So there was absolutely nothing.
So
I'm
getting a text message here from one of the seniors in the media India, and it says that he'd want to have a debate with you so that we can have this issue of media again talked about. First, media stems not from Bill of Rights, but Articles 34, 33, 34, 35 of the Constitution. So, with all due respect the media. That is from gentleman Ken Bosire. So, again, we have to leave it at that. But I can say that all the views here does not belong to KBC, neither do they represent my views. That is a view of our guest in studio. All right. At this particular point, we have to call it a wrap, but we are crossing over to the other side of KBC. We have got KBC Radio Taifa, of course, waiting for Dora Manya to give us that interview with Stephen Munala, who is the Deputy Governor of Murang'a County, coming up shortly. That is on the Zinga here on KBC Channel 1. Of course, we are taking a break and we come back. We'll be crossing over to KBC Radio Taifa shortly. Dennis Tumpi, thank you much for your time. We are waiting for Wakili Gesore, and he's sending me a text that he's received a flat tire somewhere along the road. So
just a correction. Freedom of the Media, Chapter 4, Bill of Rights, Part 2, Rights and Fundamental Freedoms. Ask him to read number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4.
I bet
all of it.
I promise to bring you back here.
No problem, but I wanted to correct him.
Ken Bosire, if you're watching.
Ken Bosire, if you're watching me.
We have a date, and
please read Chapter 4, the Bill of Rights, Part 2. It essentially establishes freedom and independence of electro print and all that. And it says what the state shouldn't do. Number 3, it says broadcasting and other electronic media have freedoms. All state-owned media shall. By the way, the role of KBC is defined here. And Parliament shall enact the legislation that provides for the establishment of a body which shall do XYZ.
Leave it
so
at that.
Media Council and all this is within the Bill of Rights.
Leave it at that.
No problem.
Leave it at that. That's a topic on its own. My colleagues are going to lynch me, but I will sanitize them.
No.
Sometimes next
we
week.
have rogue journalists.
No.
And I stick to that.
No. I defend my people.
Don't defend the rogue one.
No. I defend my people. Let's take a break. GMK continues after this break. This will continue next week. Good morning.
No, I don't think you're ready for that one yet.
What happened to not hogging the ball?
Yes, you could hog. I just think you're not ready yet.
Aki baba mwani nikikupata huku. Nikikupata huku wewe. Yaani unibia mbao yangu. Ukamkukunywa. Hiki kibaba ni kiera gani? Hiki kibaba ni... Wacha nikushike wewe.
Abuda, kuna noma nini?
Labda tuambie.
Si raha tuna noma. Ara ni kujitoa tuko najitoa.
So you said you're showing me evidence. I want to see it for myself. Plus the little boys, Kwani, what are they going to do? Ziggy, please, can you please stop? Please, say dear, someone help us! Ziggy!
Why don't you tell him what I came here for? Tell him!
Stop it. That's enough.
Go ahead! Why don't you tell him? Ask her what happened,
I'm
Dad!
not interested. This whole thing's over.
Just get out of my house. I don't want to see you, simple as that. And it's better if we forget about what happened between us.
What's going on between you and Amparo?
Yes, I accept.
What? Yes to marrying me?
Yes.
And also why? Why did you do this to me? I loved you. Why did this have to happen to me?
So you have a girl now, young man? Is she someone I know?
Enjoy a selection of the best. Regina Ray and Tingazi.
Bado hujamwambia unamlike. Umerealize hujamwachilia mkono kutoka nikuje hapa.
Love blossoms in Mexico with the Trier sisters in Las Bandidas.
I beg you, please don't go.
I want you to be the happiest man in the world with a woman who appreciates and respects you.
An array of music rave.
Make me lie when I don't want to.
Blues.
You are my everything.
Two local gems. And we sit a chat with the Diambo.
I can't even tell whether you're looking at me, seeing me, or Louis Vuitton.
Classic comedy.
Makono tu. Mashabiki.
Say that again.
Enjoy the Divas programming this February only on KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
tu msikilizaji, na kupeleka moja kwa moja kwa mgeni wetu pamoja na Dora Manya kwenye studio nyingine ya pili kupitia kanali ya Channel 1 na vile vile KBC Radio Taifa, ukifanya mazungumzo na naibu gavana wa Murang'a County. Na moja kwa moja tuelekee.
Juza hapo awali kwamba hii leo tutakuwa tunaangazia masuala ya ugatuzi. Wa Rais mstaafu Uhuru Kenyatta, na ugatuzi bila shaka umechangia katika kufungua nchi ya Kenya, na hivyo umesaidia katika kuimarisha uchumi wa mwananchi na vile vile taifa la Kenya kwa jumla. Na baada ya Rais Daktari William Ruto kuapishwa rasmi kama rais wa 5 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, aliahidi kuimarisha ugatuzi hata zaidi. Rais Ruto alisema kuunga mkono ugatuzi ni kuimarisha utajiri hapa nchini Kenya. Rais alisema kuwa alishuhudia mwenyewe jinsi ugatuzi unaweza kuimarisha nchi yoyote, na hivyo serikali kuna zile za county zinaweza kufanya kazi kwa pamoja. Lakini la muhimu asubuhi ya leo, msikilizaji na mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1, ni kuangazia hali na mikakati inayowekwa ili kuimarisha ugatuzi. Tutamulika zaidi kaunti ya Murang'a inayoongozwa na gavana Irungu Kang'ata. Tunaye naibu gavana wa kaunti hiyo kwenye studio kufafanua mikakati ya kuimarisha ugatuzi katika kaunti ya Murang'a. Na yeye ni Mheshimiwa Stephen Munania. Mheshimiwa Munania ndiye naibu gavana mdogo zaidi, akiwa na umri, amini usiamini, wa miaka 29. Je, iliwezekanaje akawa naibu gavana akiwa na umri mdogo hivi? Basi ataweza kutueleza. Ungana nasi katika majadiliano ya leo. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa katika studio za KBC Channel 1 na vile vile KBC Radio Taifa.
Asante.
Murang'a mko salama?
Murang'a tuko salama. Murang'a tuko gangari, na Murang'a tumejitayarisha ndio tuweze kufanyia wananchi wetu kazi. Asante.
Na wamefurahi sana kusikia, na hata mimi nimefurahi kusikia kwamba wewe naibu gavana umri mdogo zaidi, miaka 29. Sijui kama tuko age mates, lakini sitaki kwenda hapo. Ilikuwa kwaje mheshimiwa ukajikuta kwamba wewe naibu gavana katika umri huu? Safari ambayo tunajua si rahisi, hasa hapa nchini Kenya kila wakati wanasema vijana ni viongozi wa kesho.
Unajua Dora, kila wakati vijana wanaambiwa ni viongozi wa kesho, lakini kwa wakati huu tunataka kubadilisha hiyo msemo. Tuseme vijana ni viongozi wa sasa, kwa sababu njia tunayoipitia kama vijana, tuko na masuala tunayotaka iangaziwe na serikali. Tuko na masuala yenye wananchi kama wananchi, kama vijana wadogo, tuko na masomo tumesoma, tuko na experience ya vitu zenye tunazo kuwa tumefanya, lakini kwa kila wakati tunataka tuhusishwe katika uongozi. Na kwa hivyo kwa wakati huu ile maneno yenye tunataka kuendelea kuongea nayo ni kusema vijana ni viongozi wa leo. Na kwa hivyo ukiuliza kwa nini kijana wa miaka 29 ndiye naibu wa gavana wa ugatuzi wa Murang'a, ni kwa sababu ningetumai ati potential ama ile potential yangu ilionekana, kwa sababu mimi ni kijana mwenye amesoma, niko na master's degree, na pia nimekuwa kwa masomo ya kwa serikali kuu. Nilikuwa nafanya kazi kama assistant county commissioner, ama wale wenye wanaitwa kwa ile National Government Administration, ACC. So kwa hivyo safari yangu kwa uongozi haijakuwa ni rahisi na haijakuwa ghafla, lakini imekuwa na ile kielelezo kidogo ya kuonyeshana vijana wadogo, ukiwa na masomo yako kuna mahali penye unaweza fika. Yes.
Tupatie safari yako kidogo tu, kando na kuwa ACC, najua umetumika pia kama tunasema civil servant. Yes. Umefanya kazi sana kwa serikali. Kwa ufupi tu safari yako hadi kufikia hapo, maana kuna kijana anakutazama sasa na kuwa inspired.
Safari yangu, ningependa kusema safari ya uongozi ilianzia kwa ile msimamo yangu ya kutaka kusaidia watu, na hii ilianza pale nikiwa university. nilikuwa nasomea pale Masinde Muliro University na nili graduate kwa ile kwa mwaka wa 2015 ndio nilipata shahada yangu ya kwanza 2015. Na kutoka hapo nikajiuliza, mimi kama kijana nimetoka university naenda kutafuta kazi huko nje, nitafanya nini? So nilianza safari yangu na kuanza ile kujitolea, kazi ya kujitolea, kazi isiyo ya kulipwa yenye nilikuwa nafanya na shirika la Msalaba Mwekundu pale Thika. Ndo tulikuwa tunafanya hiyo kazi. Tunaenda kuokoa watu wenye wako kwa accident kwa barabara, tunaenda kusaidia watu wenye wako na jigas, tunaenda kuwaosha miguu, tunaenda kusaidia watu na maneno wenye hawana nguo, tunawatafutia manguo, tunawapea, tunaenda tunafanya kazi na wale street children. So pale ndipo nilianza safari yangu ya kushikana na wananchi na kujua kuna hali ya kutaka kutubadilishe ile hali ya watu. So kunikiwa hapo ndo nilianza masomo yangu ya masters, na immediately ikifika 2019 nikajaza kazi kwa public service, nikachukuliwa kama assistant county commissioner cadet. Jukumu nililolifanya kwa mwaka moja, na baadaye nikaona labda ningependa kusaidia wananchi wangu kwa njia ya kwenda kwa kutengeneza policies ama ile kutengeneza sheria zinazoongoza maendeleo yao. Na ndio nilifikiria wacha tutoke hapa kwa administration, nikaingia pale, nikaenda kugombea kiti ya MC pale kwetu nyumbani. Nilirudi pale kwetu nyumbani kwa wodi inaitwa Kariara. Nikaenda nikasema wacha tunijaribu ile experience yenye nimekuwa nayo, ile masomo yenye nimekuwa nayo, wacha nirudi pale mashinani, tujaribu tuone wananchi wangu pale nyumbani nitawasaidia namna gani. Na tukaanza safari ya kisiasa yenye tulianza kuongea na wananchi, tujue ni nini wanataka, na nianze kuwauzia ile vision yenye nilikuwa nayo ya wodi yangu ya Kariara ama kaunti ya Murang'a. Lakini unajua siasa ni ile
ukaanguka.
Nilianguka ile nomination ya UDA ile ilikuwa ya kwanza. Na lakini baadaye after kuanguka hapo, naye gavana wetu wa sai, gavana wa pili wa Murang'a, Daktari Irungu Kang'ata, naye aliwanga kwa zile harakati naye pia za campaign, naye alikuwa anatafuta kura, alikuwa anaongelesha wananchi, na yeye pia alikuwa anatafuta naibu wa gavana. Na kwa hiyo harakati alikuwa amechagua naibu wa gavana, alikuwa hapo mbeleni, lakini kwa sababu ya siasa akangolewa pale. Lakini sasa akatafuta, alikuwa anatafuta nani ataweza kuwa ako na potential na mwenye atamshikilia kuendelea na yeye. Na mimi nilikuwa hapo, kijana gangari, kijana amesoma, na kijana mwenye kisiasa alikuwa upcoming. Na kwa sababu gavana wetu ni gavana mwenye ukiangalia historia yake, ni gavana Daktari Kang'ata ni kiongozi mwenye amejitolea kuleta vijana kutoka chini, ni mentor wa vijana, kwa sababu yeye pia alianza uongozi akuwa wa miaka 22 akiwa kama councillor pale Murang'a township, na pia akakuwa mbunge, akakuwa miaka 30 na kitu, akakuwa senator miaka 30 na kitu, na sasa governor miaka 42.
Kwa hivyo uongozi wa kaunti ya Murang'a tunaweza kusema ni wa vijana.
Uongozi wa Murang'a ni uongozi wa vijana.
Kwa sekunde 30 tu, wengi wa vijana wanasema kupata nafasi hizo za uongozi ndio zimekuwa changamoto. Wanasema wengine labda pesa, labda ujue mtu akushike mkono ndio kapata nafasi ya uongozi, labda changamoto ambayo unaweza kuwapatia ni ipi kwa sekunde chache tu?
Changamoto yenye mingi sana ni ati vijana saa zingine tunaongozangwa na pesa kuliko ile maono yenye mtu ako nayo. Kwa sababu saa zingine ukiangalia labda ni pesa unahitaji ndio uingie ulingoni wa siasa. Yes, katai kuna pesa. Lakini mimi niliingia kwa ulingoni wa siasa nikiwa sina ndururu. Niliingia pale nikiwa na ile vision yenye nilikuwa naongelelea watu. Benefactors walikuja wakasema, kijana hata huna suti, nitakununulia suti yenye uko nayo. Huna gari, wacha nikupatie gari ya kutembea uende uongelesha wananchi. So kwa hivyo wakati mwingi saa zingine tukijaribu kuona hii maneno ni kama ni pesa ndio inaongoza. Saa zingine si pesa inaongoza, lakini ile maono yenye kijana ako nayo. Kama kijana ako na maono, wacha ajitokeze. Akijitokeza na onyeshane kuna ile mikakati ama ile yenye anataka kusaidia watu, then hakutakuwa na mtu mwenye atakuwa akitaka kufunika ile maono yake ama ile kipawa yenye ako nayo.
Nataka tuingie katika kaunti kaunti ya Murang'a. Lakini kabla hapo, wewe kama naibu gavana, mara si moja na so wakati ugatuzi uliasisiwa, kukawa na madai kwamba baadhi ya wale deputy governors, ninyi manaibu wa gavana, hamna kazi. Kwamba mko tu hamna kazi, haujui kazi yako ni gani. Labda kidogo tu pia tueleze kuhusu hilo.
Katika ugatuzi kama unavyoelewa, nafasi ya naibu wa gavana iko katika ile katiba, iko envisioned katika katiba yetu ya Kenya, na kwa sababu ya hiyo kazi ya naibu gavana imewekwa hapo kwa sababu yeye ni msaidizi ama principal assistant to the governor. That means governor akifanya maneno yake, shughuli zake zote zinahusiana na naibu wa gavana, kwa sababu governor, kama nitapatia example na mimi kama naibu wa gavana wa Daktari Kangata haizi kuwa kila mahali katika county, haizi kuwa kwa kila mikutano zote katika county, lakini ana rely na yule principal assistant wake ndio aweze kumsaidia kwa zile harakati ya responsibilities zake, na ndipo naibu wa gavana anaingililia. So kama kazi ya naibu wa gavana haijaambiwa ati yeye anasimamia na ile, hiyo ni kwa sababu kazi yake iko kwa responsibility yenye imepewa na gavana. Na ndio maana saa zingine unaona gavana kutoka kaunti moja na ile ingine, gavana anaweza assign deputy governor function na ile ingine. Lakini pale kwetu tunaamini ni ati si kwa sababu ya mimi siko hapo kwa sababu mimi ni Steven Monani, niko hapo kwa ajili ya wananchi wetu, na hiyo ndio maana ananiamini kunipea ile responsibility ya kufanya kazi katika upande ya agriculture, kuenda kuangalia maneno ya trade, kuenda kuangalia masuala ya ICT, kuangalia maneno ya hospitali. Kama naibu wa gavana namsaidia kwa ile harakati, ndio tuhakikishe kila department na kila ministry katika Murang'a inafanya kazi inavyostahili na inapeana zile services zenye zinahitajika.
Na miaka 10 baadaye, baada ya kuasiwa kwa ugatuzi, ukiangalia kama kiongozi tumepiga hatua. Kumekuwa changamoto, ndio kuna mambo ambayo yamegatuliwa kama vile sekta ya kilimo, sekta ya afya na sekta zingine mbalimbali. Kama kiongozi kutoka katika kaunti ya Murang'a na vile vile hapa nchini Kenya, unahisi kwamba hatua zimepigwa na tunaendelea vizuri japo katika masuala ya ugatuzi?
Masuala ya ugatuzi ningependa kusema kwamba tunaendelea vizuri. Kwa ile ningependa kumaanisha ugatuzi miaka 10 bado ni changa, na ile nafasi ya kuendelea kuongeza zile functions kufuatana na pesa zenye zimepewa pale mashinani, bado tunaendelea kusoma na kujua venye serikali kuu na serikali ya county zinavyofaa kupelekana, kwa sababu ile kuna msemo napenda kushinda nikirudia sana. Yes, tuko majimbo 47 ama serikali 48 katika inchi, lakini inchi ni moja. So kwa hivyo zile functions zenye zinazokuwa katika county government zinapelekana na zile pia ziko kwa national government. So kwa hivyo hata kama kuna zile mashida hapa na pale, lakini serikali imefanya kazi kuhakikisha ile maneno yenye imekuwa katika county government imepewa ile nafasi ya kuweza kukam up. Na zenye pia sahi kuna shida, kama najua kama sahi tuko na shida kidogo ya pesa zinazotoka kutoka kwa national government. Zile pesa za ugatuzi zinachelewa hapa na pale kidogo, lakini tunaelewa serikali ikianza kufanya kazi kuna zile hitilafu kidogo zenye zinatokelezea, lakini sisi kama kaunti ya Murang'a tumejaribu kuwa very creative na venye tunapeana services kwa wananchi wetu.
Na katika kaunti ya Murang'a, tukikuja chini kidogo sasa tuangazie kaunti ya Murang'a. Ni moja wapo kaunti ambayo inajulikana sana kwa masuala ya uendelezaji wa kilimo, kwamba masuala ya kilimo, na nafahamu pia mko na ile inaitwa dairy subsidy program katika kaunti ile ya Murang'a. Labda kidogo tusaidie kuelewa katika ule uzalishaji wa maziwa, ndizi, avocado, mnaifanya vipi ili kuboresha maisha haswa ya mkulima katika kaunti ya Murang'a?
Asante Dora. Dora, ningependa kusema kwamba katika kaunti ya Murang'a tunajua kilimo ndio ile kitu muhimu sana zaidi kwa wananchi wetu, kwa sababu 80% ya wananchi wa Murang'a wanategemea kilimo kufanya zile jambo wanalofanya. Na sasa kwa sababu sisi kama administration ya Daktari Rongo Kang'ata venye tulienda tukizunguka katika kaunti yote mashinani kote tukizungumza na wananchi, tuliwaambia tutajaribu kuona lile jambo lenye tutawasaidia nalo la kwanza ni kitu yenye inaitwa kilimo. Na kwa hivyo tumetengeneza ile yenye tunaita subsidy program ya kusaidia wananchi wetu waendelee na kilimo yao. Na kwa hivyo hii subsidy program tulianza kwanza kuiweka kwa sheria. Tumefanya kazi na county assembly yetu kuhakikisha tumetengeneza sheria inayofaa ya kusupport mwananchi wetu. Na kwa sababu ile county yetu iko na nitazita ecological zone ama ile sehemu tofauti zinazofanana. Kuna ile sehemu ya juu yenye kuna kuanga na majani chai, yenye kuna kuanga na kahawa, yenye huwa inapata labda kiasi juu kidogo ya mvua. Na kuna hii sehemu ya chini yenye iko upande ya Murang'a South, yenye iko upande ya kiangazi kidogo, yenye imekaribia upande ya Machakos. So kwa hivyo tungependa kusupport mwananchi mwenye yako upande ya juu, na pia tungependa kusupport mwananchi upande ya chini. Lakini kuvenye tuliangalia kwa ngazi yetu kuangaza hivi, tukaona yule mwananchi mwenye yako ile sehemu za upande ya juu ama ile yenye tunaita hapa Murang'a, huyo mwananchi kuna kitu moja wako nayo in common, ni ati mwananchi ni wakulima wa maziwa. Households mingi ama zile nyumba mingi utapata mkulima ako na ng'ombe 2, ako na ng'ombe 3, na hiyo maziwa anakamua anapeleka pale kwa cooperative. Na ukienda uko ule upande wa chini, nao kuna wakulima wa machungwa na maembe, lakini wale wengi sana kwa upande ya chini ni wakulima wa maembe. So tukaamua kucraft ile subsidy program tuweze kusaidia mwananchi wote mwenye yako upande ya juu na mwenye yako upande ya chini. Na hii subsidy program tumeipanga ndio iweze kurudisha ile gharama ya production ama ile gharama ya production ndio iende chini, kwa sababu tunafahamu pale mbeleni mwananchi ama ningesema serikali imekuwa na ile mkono mgumu sana ya kushinda ikikuleta maendeleo kwa wananchi, na inaishikilia mpaka inafika pale mashinani. Lakini sisi kama new administration tunataka tupe mwananchi ile freedom ya choice, ama ile freedom ya choice ya chenye atafanya na shamba yake. So hii subsidy program badala ya kutafutia mwananchi ile fertilizer, kwa sababu national government inaleta ile fertilizer ya chini iko na hiyo mpango, lakini sisi kama county tunataka mwananchi akuwe na freedom ya chenye atafanya na ng'ombe yake. Tunataka apate freedom ya ile yenye anafanya na ile maembe yake. So hii subsidy program instead ya badala ya kutafutia mwananchi input, tunampea ile pesa ya kusubsidize production yake. Kama anatumia shilingi 15 kuproduce maziwa, tunataka tupunguze hiyo gharama yake ya kuproduce maziwa. Kwa hiyo shilingi 15 tuipunguze kwa labda shilingi 5. So hiyo shilingi 5 tutapea mwananchi directly. Ile tunamtupia hiyo pesa ndio gharama yake ipungue. Kama anatumia labda shilingi 5 kuproduce kilo moja ya maembe, tunataka tutamtafutia soko, lakini tunataka pia tumtupie ile shilingi 2 ya hiyo cost of production yake ya hiyo maembe, kwa hiyo kilo moja irudi chini, na mwananchi at the end of the day pesa iko mfukoni.
Umezungumzia bei ya pembejeo umepunguza, mambo ya subsidy na mambo kama, lakini utakuta mara nyingi pia ndio uzalishaji umefanywa vizuri, wakulima wana mazao, lakini labda kupata soko ya ile mazao inakuwa ndio issue. Labda kama kaunti ya Murang'a mnasaidia vipi yule mkulima wa kaunti hiyo kuhakikisha kwamba ndio anazalisha, tumewasaidia na pembejeo, lakini pia wanapata soko kwa sababu ya zile bidhaa, na pia masuala ya value addition kidogo, isiwe tu ni ukulima pekee.
Tunaelewa kwamba wakulima wa Murang'a wangependa kuendelea sana na ukulima wao, lakini pia tunaelewa pia mkulima wa Murang'a hana ile mashamba kubwa. That means production yake iko chini kidogo, kwa sababu ni wakulima wandogo, wako na eka 1, eka 2, na mwenye yako na mingi sana labda eka 5. That means huyo hiyo production yake iko chini sana mno. Lakini tungependa kuwatafutia soko mzuri. Lakini soko mzuri haipatikani kwa kilo moja ama kilo mbili. Inapatikana kwa zile kilo mingi. So sisi tunafanya ile kuwaunganisha kwa zile tunaita societies ama cooperatives. Ndio ziweze kuunganisha kilo zao, kuunganisha kilo zao. Wakifikisha zile kilo zao, tunaweza kutafutia soko. Na ili tumeweza kuanzia sana na kwa upande wa maembe. Kwa ile subsidy program tume negotiate ama tumeenda tukaongea na wahisani ama wale private entrepreneurs. Tuko na wale wenye wanaitwa Kevian wenye wanatengeneza zile juices za maembe pale upande ya Thika. Tuko na wale wenye wanaitwa Sunny Mangoes wenye wana process ama wana process maembe pale upande ya Murang'a. Tumekuwa na agreement na wao. Watachukua maembe ya wakazi wa Murang'a. So already tumewatafutia soko. So mkulima ile alikuwa ananunua na broker maembe moja shilingi 2 na shilingi 3. Sasa hii Murang'a na tumeanzia maembe ya Murang'a inanunuliwa kwa shilingi 16 kwa kilo. Hiyo ni kumaanisha imetoka kutoka kwa shilingi 8 kwa kg imeenda kwa shilingi 16. Hiyo ni kumaanisha already hata before tupeleke subsidy mwananchi wa Murang'a na benefit na ile kg zenye ananunuliwa na ile private na ile private entrepreneur. So hii ndio njia ya kwanza yenye tunaonyesha wananchi wetu. Jambo la kwanza tuunganishe kwa cooperative. Jambo la pili kutumia ile department yetu ya cooperative and trade. Watafutia nafasi ya kuuza hiyo mazao yao. Yeah.
Kabla tupate pumziko na vile tuangazie mawili matatu kuhusiana na ugatuzi kitaifa. Pia kuna kama county government ya Murang'a, mojawapo ya vitu ambavyo umesifiwa sana kwayo ni kuhusiana na ile tunaita Kang'ata Care. Labda kidogo utueleze pia kuhusu hilo, manake aswa kwa wale wazee wengi wamesifia sana kuhusiana na ile cover. Kwa fupi tu.
Asante sana. Kang'ata Care ni imezaliwa kwa sababu ya kujua venye kaunti yetu ya Murang'a inavyofanana in terms ya demographic. Tunafahamu kwamba kaunti ya Murang'a iko na an aging population, na ni kumaanisha iko na wazee wanaoendelewa kuwa wengi. Na panapokuwa na population iko na wazee wengi, wanahitaji services za huduma za kiafya. Na kwa hivyo gavana wetu akafikiria jambo moja la kwanza ni kuhusisha awa wazee ama wale watu wenye wanao services za kiafya ndio wapate ile nafasi ya kwenda kutibiwa bila pesa yoyote katika hospitali zetu. So tumecraft NHIF, tukapata collaboration na NHIF, tukaanza kutengeneza kitu yenye inaitwa super program ama Kang'ata Care yenye iko na benefits zenye ziko na the normal card ya Kang'ata Care, lakini pia tumeiongeza hapo juu. Iko na inpatient na iko na outpatient kama zile kadi zingine zote, lakini pia iko na dental. Ukienda kutibiwa meno, uko na shida ya meno, utatibiwa na hiyo kadi. Ukiwa na shida ya macho, utatibiwa na hiyo kadi. Lakini pia tumeongeza kile kitu kingine yenye inaitwa last expense insurance, ile yenye tungependa kuzuia ama kurudisha gharama ya wananchi wetu kwenda kwa harambee mingi kwa sababu wameachwa na mtu wao. So hiyo last expense insurance iko katikati ya hiyo kadi.
Zaidi ya wazee 20,000 naambiwa kwamba wanafaidika na huo mradi. Yes. Swali litakuwa ni je, pesa za kusustain mradi huo mnatoa wapi?
Asante sana. Kwa sababu pesa ya kusustain hii kwanza tulitengeneza kitu inaitwa health policy ama sheria ya kuunda fund yenye inayoongoza hii masuala yote. That means imekuwa allocated from the county assembly wakifanya ile budget. So far tumeweka 162 million kwa hiyo mradi, na siku ya leo ningependa kusema ile kadi ya NHIF tumeanza kuhakikisha kila mtu mwenye ako na kadi ya NHIF katika Murang'a, kama ni ya Kang'ata Care ama ile yenye walipewa ile yao wengine, tunataka kuregister kila mtu na dependents wao. So tumeanza hiyo mradi kuhamasisha kila mtu atokelezee kwa the nearest health centers zenye tunazozionyesha kwa kila ward. Kuna at least health center 3 zenye zitakuwa zikichukua our dependents ndio waweze kufikiwa na maneno ya matibabu katika hospitali zetu.
Shikilia pale pale mheshimiwa, tutakuwa tunarejea kwako hapo baadaye. Msikilizaji wa KBC Radio Taifa na vile vile mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1, kumbuka ni gumzo pevu tukiangazia maswala ya ugatuzi na vile vile maendeleo, na hapa studioni tunaye mheshimiwa Steven Munania ambaye ni naibu gavana kutoka kaunti ya Murang'a. Tutakuwa tunakwenda upande wa pili wa studio na tutarejea. Msikilizaji na mtazamaji, tungependa sana kusikia kutoka kwa watu wa kaunti ya Murang'a. Tupe maswali yako kupitia mitandao yetu ya kijamii @doramanya, Radio Taifa FM, @KBC Channel 1 ama @Captain Joroge 1, na vile vile laini zetu za simu tutakuwa tunazifungua. Unaweza ukapiga simu live kupitia nambari 0700176699 au 0732745111. Tunarejea.
Asante. Zinga. Bila shaka ni sauti yake Dora Manya upande mwingine wa studio akizungumza naye naibu gavana
Enjoy a selection of the best. Regina Ray and Tingazi.
Bado hujamwambia unamlike. Mrealize hajamwachilia mkono kutoka nikuja hapa.
Love blossoms in Mexico with the Trier sisters in Las Bandidas.
I beg you, please don't go.
Want you to be the happiest man in the world with a woman who appreciates and respects you.
An array of music rave.
Make me lie when I don't want to.
Blues.
You are my everything.
Two local gems. And we sit to chat with the Thiambo.
You know, I can't even tell whether you're looking at me, seeing me, with the Louis Vuitton.
Classic comedy.
Makono tu. Say that again.
Enjoy the Divas programming this February only on KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Abantu ba Minto Mbuyamole. Your favorite Ekegusi station, Minto FM, is now at your doorstep. Enjoy the hottest KC music, informative and entertaining shows, and reliable news only on Minto FM. Tune in to Minto FM on 91.7 FM in Nyamira, Kisii, and its environs.
Minto FM
Why don't you tell him what I came here for? Tell him.
Stop it. That's enough.
Go ahead. Why don't you tell him? Ask her what happened,
I'm
Dad.
not interested. This whole thing's over.
Just get out of my house. I don't want to see you, simple as that. And it's better if we forget about what happened between us.
What's going on between you and Amparo?
Yes, I accept.
What? Yes to marrying me?
Yes.
And also why? Why did you do this to me? I loved you. Why did this have to happen to me?
So you have a girl now, young man? Is she someone I know?
msikilizaji wa KBC Radio Taifa, tuweze kuzungumza nawe, tufuatilie kwa mitandao ya kijamii, na ikiwezekana sana tungependa kupokea pia simu kutoka kaunti ile ya Murang'a. Labda wana maswali kwa sababu ya kiongozi, na tuseme ya kwamba tunawafungia wengine mbali, wale ambao wanatusikiza na vile vile kutufuatilia kote nchini Kenya. Na hapa studioni nilivyosema naye naibu gavana wa kaunti ya Murang'a Bwana Steven Munania, karibu tena katika awamu hii. Kabla tusikilize wananchi wanasemaje, tulikuwa tunazungumza kuhusu kaunti ya Murang'a na maendeleo mbalimbali ambayo kwamba ameweza kuleta kwa faidi wakazi wa kaunti ile ya Murang'a. Lakini kuna jambo moja ambalo pia kidogo nimesikia pale mashinani kuhusu mradi fulani ambao mnaendeleza kule mashinani. Labda kwa ufupi tu ugusie, na unafaidi vipi yule mwananchi ambaye yuko kule mashinani?
Asante. Ningependa kusema kwamba kaunti ya Murang'a ingependa kuwa kielelezo kwa kaunti zile zingine, kwa ile maneno yenye tunataka kuwa kuna pesa zinazofika kwa kila kona ya ward zetu, kwa kila kona ya vijiji. Ndio yule mwananchi mwenye ako pale upande ya Kariala pale upande ya Katora anatoshana na yule mwananchi mwenye ako upande ya Mathioya pale upande wa Getugi, anatoshana na yule mwananchi mwenye ako pale upande wa Idhanga, na anatoshana na yule mwananchi ako upande ya Maragwa, upande ya Kagema na mahali kwingine kote. So gavana akafanya mradi wa kushikiliana na our members of the county assembly kuleta kitu yenye inaitwa community project, ama mradi unaopeleka pesa mashinani, na hizi pesa ndizo zinatumika kuendeleza maneno ya maendeleo, kama kutengeneza zile madarasa za chekechea, kama ule upande, kama siku ya jana tuliwanga kwenda kufungua darasa la kwanza lenye tumetengeneza upande wa Kariaini, ule upande wa Kiru Ward pale upande wa Mathioya. Na kwa hii financial year tutakuwa tukifanya madarasa 84 kwa ile mpango wa community projects, na tukitamania tuko na karibu madarasa 700 katika kaunti mzima ya Murang'a. Hii financial year ingine tutahakikisha labda tumefanya madarasa 200, ndio tuhakikishe kwa kila mwaka pesa za mashinani zinaenda kufikia kwa wale watu wenye wanahitajika. Na nikifikiria watoto wetu wanaoenda kwa shule za chekechea, hiyo ndio mahali yenye tunaweza anzia ya muhimu tena zaidi. Na kwa ile mpango pia tukaweza kujua tunafaa tu support ile education system yetu, na ndio maana tuko pia na mradi ingine yenye tunaita uji program, ama ile ya kupea watoto wetu wa chekechea uji kikombe moja kila siku. Kwa sababu tunajua hii wakati wa kiangazi kuna watu wenye hawana pesa ya kupea watoto wao chakula, na tungependa hawa watoto waweze kuwa wakibenefit na ile masomo ya chekechea, kwa sababu tunajua mtoto akiwa mdogo ukikosa kumwangalia vizuri akiwa hapo, then mtoto pia atashindwa kusoma na atapata ile nguvu pia ya kukua yeye mwenyewe kimwili na pia kiakili. Na ndio maana hii programu ya uji tulianzia ndio ifikie mashinani kila mahali, na kwa siku ya leo kila shule zote 700 na watoto wote 4200 wote wa Murang'a wa chekechea wanakunywa uji saa 4.
Wow. Niseme kwa Kiingereza, that is commendable. Nafikiri kuna mengi kaunti zingine zinaweza kujifunza kutoka kaunti ya Konradi, kaunti ya Murang'a. Hebu turudi kitaifa kidogo na tuangalie kama kuna mojawazo ya masuala ambayo kidogo magavana ama serikali za kaunti zimekuwa zikililia sana, ni kupata mgao wa fedha wa kutosha. Na mgao kwa serikali za kaunti umekuwa ndio ukiongezeka, na mwaka uliopita serikali za kaunti zilipata jumla ya shilingi bilioni 370 na kutoka kwa serikali kuu. Magavana na wadau wengine wamekuwa wakisema mgao huu unafaa kuongezwa. Wameteta sana. Labda kwa masuala ya mgao kutoka kwa serikali kuu, kaunti ya Murang'a iko vipi katika hali ya kifedha? Unaweza kutueleza vipi? Tuliona hata juzi wakati kulikuwa na kongamano, naibu rais akasema itabidi mtosheke na zile pesa ambazo tunawapa kama counties. Labda ninyi kama kaunti ya Murang'a kifedha mnaweza kusema vipi kuhusiana na mgao huu?
Ningependa kusema kwanza ningeshukuru president wetu His Excellency William Ruto, kwa sababu anajaribu kuhakikisha zile pesa za ugatuzi zinafikia counties. Lakini lakini pia tunaelewa kuna changamoto 1, 2, 3 zenye kwa ile pesa yenye inayofikia kaunti zetu haifiki zikiwa zote kwa pamoja. Lakini tunaelewa si ati kuna zile pesa zimewekwa mahali ati zinatolewa zote kwa mara moja. Hizi zinatokana kwa wananchi wetu watukufu kwa kulipa kodi, na hawalipi kodi ya mwaka mzima mara moja. Wanaendelea kulipa kodi kila siku, na hizi ndizo pesa zenye tunazotegemea ati national government inatupea kulingana na ile. Lakini kuna jambo moja ningependa kusema kwa jambo la pesa. Tunajua kwamba counties some of the devolved functions inakujanga, lakini hakunanga ile pesa yenye huwa inafuata certain functions, na hiyo ndio kama hata ile Council of Governors inakuwa inaongelelea na naibu wetu wa rais pale IBEC, ndio tuweze kuhakikisha ati zile functions zenye tumepewa kama county government zinafuatana na pesa inayofaa kwa hizo functions. So kwa hivyo ile health ya pesa yenye iko kwa upande ya Murang'a, sisi tunakuwa creative kidogo, ndio tuweze kuhusisha stakeholders wetu na pia county assembly yetu, ndio tuweze kutumia zile pesa kidogo zenye tunazopata tuweze kutuzitumia kwa service delivery ya wananchi.
Kwa hivyo ninyi ile mnapata mnaitumia vizuri?
Tunaitumia vizuri kabisa.
Kabla tuongee na wananchi, turudi pale Murang'a tena kidogo. Kumekuwa na madai ya kaunti ya Murang'a kutolipa wanakandarasi. Na kukawa hata na maandamano ya baadhi ya wanakandarasi. Ikafika mahali gavana nafikiri alibuni jopo kazi ya kuchunguza na kuhakikisha kwamba wanakandarasi wote katika serikali iliyopita ambao walifanya kazi wanaweza wakalipwa. Hebu tuzungumzie hilo na uwapatie hakikisho labda wale wanakandarasi ambao kwa sasa wakutizama.
Ningependa kusema jambo la kandarasi katika kaunti ya Murang'a. Sisi tuko kaunti yenye tungependa kuhakikisha mtu mwenye yote amefanyia kaunti kazi ya Murang'a angependa kulipwa, atalipwa. Lakini venye tuliingia kwa uongozi, kwa ile transition committee tulikuwa tumeambiwa tuko na madeni ya 1.6 billion, lakini venye tuliingia ofisini then hizo pesa zikaongezeka, zikatoka kutoka 1.7 billion zikafika 2.4 billion. So governor akafikiria, akajiuliza kwa nini hizi pesa hazikuwa kwa ile transition program, kwa ile transition committee hatukuambiwa hizi pesa ziko. Ndio alitengeneza hiyo jopo kazi ndio iweze kuangalia hizi pesa zinafaa zilipwe kwa njia gani, ama kuangalia hizi kampuni kama indeed zilifanya kazi ama ni watu wachache walikuwa nataka kujitajirisha. Na ndio maana sasa hilo jopo ngazi wakati lilifanya kazi yake likaweza kuonyesha zile kampuni zote zenye zimefikia ama zenye ziko na ile makaratasi yote yenye inahitajika ama zenye zimefikisha ile regulation, wamefanya kazi na wako na all the procurement papers zenye zinahitajika ndio waweze kulipwa. Na ndio maana tukatengeneza kitu yenye inaitwa payment plan na kila mtu mwenye pending bill yake imefika ni ya halali na imefanyiwa kazi yote yenye inayohitajika. Tupendengeneze hiyo payment plan, na ukienda kwa website yetu ile ya county government ya Murang'a, ukitaka kujua ni kampuni gani yenye inalipwa pesa, tumeandika majina zote za hizo kampuni zote na tumeandika pia payment plan. Na kwa wale wenye hawakufikisha zile labda wenye walienda kwa hiyo jopo kazi hawakuwa na hii makaratasi ingine na ile ingine, pia tukabuni committee kwa ile Ministry of Finance wenye watakuwa wakiwaambia kujeni na hizo yes, hamukupita kwa hii stage ya kwanza lakini hamujafungiwa, leteni hizo makaratasi zetu pia tuziangalie. Zikifika hiyo then zinawekwa kwa payment plan. Na saa hii tuko kwa ile maongezi na control of budget, ndio tuhakikishe hizi pending bills zote zenye zimefikisha kiwango ya kulipwa zimelipwa before the end of this financial year.
Ulipata pending bills ya pesa ngapi?
Ndio hiyo yenye nakwambia, tulipata pending bills ya 1.6 billion lakini venye ilienda ikaongezeka ikakuwa 2.4 billion. So lakini venye tuliweka hiyo jopo kazi tuliweza kujua that zile kadarasi zenye zilikuwa halali ziliwanga za milioni 900. So unaelewa sasa kwa nini tulikuwa tunahitaji hiyo jopo kazi, ndio iweze kutuonyesha ama iweze kuangalia sisi kama ituambie kama county ati kuna watu walikuwa wanafanya kazi zisizo halali na pesa za county. Na ningependa kujua pia, mwananchi angependa kujua ati pesa yake ama ile kodi yenye anayolipa haichukuliwi na watu wenye wanataka kuiba pesa za serikali. Yeah.
Okay, msikilizaji wa KBC Radio Taifa na vile vile mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1, nafikiri ni wakati mwafaka tutapokea simu kama 3 upande wa pili wa studio. Kumbuka hapa studioni tunaye Mheshimiwa Stephen Munania, yeye naibu gavana wa kaunti ya Murang'a, naibu gavana miaka 29 peke yake. Upande wa pili Njoroge Ng'ang'a, kama unanipata Mheshimiwa anasikiza na anasubiri simu kama 3 hivi.
Msikilizaji, asante sana popote pale ulipo. Nambari ya simu hapa studioni kwa swali lolote ni 0700176699 au 0732745111. Radio Taifa, hello.
Hello KBC.
Yes.
Sasa mimi hilo swala ambalo linazungumziwa na mheshimiwa na naibu wa gavana hapa Lamu limenini sana, kwa sababu ukiangalia sisi kama wasanii tunaumia sana, sisi kama waimbaji. Talent ziko chini, unakuta pia industry yetu haijaenda vizuri kwa wanabiashara.
Ndio.
Na aswa sana kwa sababu sisi ndio kioo cha jamii.
Yes.
Tuweza kuangaziwa sana katika masuala hii ya talent. Ukiangalia mpaka national government pia hakuna. Haswa mimi kama mwimbaji nimejaribu sana kutembea paka sehemu sana za maofisi hizi za county.
Okay.
Sijaona maswada yoyote. Ukiangalia pia upande wa walemavu tulipata tu kutoa wakati mmoja, wakati wanapiga siasa. Wakati kama huwa kuna kitu inapatikana.
Okay.
Mimi naitwa Daniel Dungu kutoka Lamu.
Daniel Dungu kutoka Lamu, asante sana. Radio Taifa, hello.
Hello, jambo ndugu yangu Njoro.
Salama.
Omar baba saina kutoka Lesotho Ndikaoni.
Yes.
Ningependa kuuliza deputy governor, ni serikali wako naye, kwa sababu nasikia vile anaongea naonekana Murang'a wako na amani, yani viongozi wote wako na amani, wako na serikali. Alafu swali la TV TFF ule kwao iko namna gani? Shukrani ndugu yangu.
Asante. Radio Taifa, hello.
Radio Taifa, hello.
Hello.
Ninaitwa Kirofik, niko Maimahio.
Yes.
Mko na habari nzuri sana na deputy governor wa Murang'a, ni Murize. Kuna project ambazo zilikuwa na governor wa hapo awali, zilikuwa za avocado. Na zilikuwa zinawasaidia watu sana, na zingine zilikuwa za mifugo na kufuga mifugo za maziwa. Hizo project bado wanaziendeleza, na za avocado wanahakikishaje kwamba pesa zile zinafikia mkulima bila kupitia kwa brokers? Asanteni sana.
Radio Taifa, hello.
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 Habari.
Salama.
Ndio kutoka Londiani katika kaunti.
Swali lako? Swali lako?
Swali yangu ni kwa nataka kuuliza, nataka kuna pesa walemavu, lakini unajua wengine inafika na wengine haifiki. Alafu tena hiyo pesa ya wazee. Natokanga wengine nilikuwa natokanga, lakini haitoki tena, sijui huko kaunti yenu huko ya Murang'a inatoka.
Okay. Tuchukue simu ya mwisho. Radio Taifa, hello. Haya. Doro, nafikiri kwa hayo, kwa sababu ya muda pengine mmeshapata vizuri pamoja na naibu gavana, na warudishia usukani upande kwenu Dora Manya na mheshimiwa.
Shukran sana Njoroge Ng'ang'a upande wa pili, na hapa studioni upande wa pili nilivyosema tuko na deputy governor kutoka kaunti ya Murang'a, mheshimiwa Stephen Munania. Wakenya wanakusikiza na vile vile wakutazama kutoka pembe zote, lakini wacha nianze na huyu kabla hujarespond. Kwa hiyo kuna huyu anauliza, tafadhali muulize deputy governor wetu hali ya sasa ya uwezeshaji wa vijana katika kaunti ya Murang'a ni ipi, na serikali imeweka mikakati gani ya kuwasaidia vijana? Nafikiri huyu ni mkazi wa kaunti ya Murang'a kabla kidogo ujaangazia maswali yale mengine kwa ufupi sana.
Asante. Vijana wetu upande ya Murang'a tungependa wapate ile nafasi ya kujiendeleza wao wenyewe. Na vijana wako na miradi mingi yenye wangependa kufanya. Vijana wako na sports ama zile michezo yenye wangependa kufanya. Na tulianzia kwa kurevive ile department yenye inaitwa Youth Sports and Culture, na tukaweka kijana gangari kabisa ambaye pia ni kijana pia tu kama mimi mwenye atashukua akishughulikia maneno ya vijana, anaitwa Mheshimiwa Noah Gashusha, na ndiye amesimamia kama CCM wa upande wa Sports, Youth and Culture. Na tumemwambia ama tumempea ile kazi kufanya kazi pamoja na wa members of the county assembly ndio waweze kuhusisha vijana wote mashinani kila mahali kwa ile upande yenye inaitwa upande wa michezo. Na ndio kwa wakati ya kwanza baada ya miaka 6 ni Disemba iliyopita tulianza ile kitu yenye inaitwa Murang'a Cross Country yenye tulianzisha pale Kakoigo Stadium, na tukaonyeshana na tukasema hii ndio njia yenye tulikuwa tukifanya, na kabla hii mwaka ishe tutakuwa tukizindua mradi mwingine wa michezo ya ile football yenye tunaita Governors Cup yenye itakuwa ikihusisha vijana wote katika wodi zote, katika sub county zote, ndio waweze kushiriki kwa mchezo wa football, ndio tuweze kuendeleza zile talanta zao. Yeah.
Okay. Maswali mengine najua ni ya kiujumla. Kama kuna moja alikuwa ameuliza kuhusu kama TVET kule Murang'a.
TVET bila shaka ni ziko kwa upande wa county, na tungependa kuhakikisha that hizi TVET zinakuwa ile kitu yenye tunaita centers of excellence. His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto ako na ile mpango ya ku make sure that vijana wanajikuza na vipawa zao ama ile knowledge yenye wako nayo, na sisi bila shaka kama counties tunataka kuinvest kazi kwa zile TVET ndio tuweze kuleta zile masomo karibu sana na wananchi wetu, kwa sababu kama sasa hivi tuko na TVET 70 katika kaunti ya Murang'a. Hiyo ni kumaanisha takriban kila wodi iko na TVET karibu 2, na ndio tunataka tutumie hizi TVET kusomesha vijana wetu, na tutaanzia mpango kutumia hizo TVET kuhakikisha ati jambo la kwanza labda tungependa kufanya ni ati kama wale vijana wa bodaboda tunaenda kuwasomesha wapate ile driving license zao ndio waweze kuendesha bodaboda wakijua sheria venye inavyofaa barabarani. Yeah.
Labda kwa sababu ya muda tu angazie kiujumla. Kuna huyo kutoka Nandi ambaye ameuliza siri ya kaunti ya Murang'a ni gani? Maana amesema ni kama kaunti ya Murang'a mnafanya vizuri sana.
Nikifikiria siri ya county si ati ni kitu fiche, lakini ni ile uongozi yenye inayofanya kazi na kila mtu. Tunajua ni ati county governor haizi fanya kazi akiwa peke yake, anahitaji the county assembly, na kwa hivyo kila jambo lenye tunalofanya kwa kama executive tunafanya tukua tukiongozwa na county assembly yetu, tunawapelekea regulations ndio waweze kupitisha sheria wa kila kitu yenye tunayofanya. Kama saa hivi venye tumezungumzia maneno ya health, tuko na health policy. Tumezungumzia maneno ya agriculture, tuko na an agricultural subsidy policy. Tumezungumzia maneno ya programs kama za community project, tuko na ile policies na regulations zenye tumetutisha ya kufanya hiyo maneno tukishikiliana na wananchi. Na unajua ile regulation ikienda kwa county assembly pia tunafanya ile kitu ya muhimu tunayoambiwa kama kwa katiba yetu, kufanya kitu yenye inaitwa public participation. So tunaongelesha wananchi, tunaambiwa tunawaletea hii maendeleo, maoni yenu iko namna gani. Kama hii program ya uji, kwanza tulifanya piloting kwa mwezi mmoja, tukaenda tukachukua shule kila wodi shule kadhaa, tusikize maoni ya wananchi tukifanya hii mpango iko namna gani. After kufanya hivyo tukashikana na county assembly, tukakaa chini na wao, hii ndio maoni ya wananchi, mnafikiria namna gani ndio tuweze kuifanya ikiwa mzuri tena zaidi. Tukatoka hapo tukaenda tukaunganisha na other stakeholders katika county yetu, tukauliza maoni yao pia iko namna gani. So venye tulikaa chini kucraft program yenye venye inayoroliwa out in all the the 700 shule za chekechea. Tunahakikisha hakuna mtu yeyote mwenye ameachwa nyuma kuleta maoni yake na kuhakikisha tunaleta maendeleo kwa mwananchi.
Mheshimiwa mwelekezi wangu ananiambia kwamba muda unatupa kisogo. Tukimalizia tu kwa sekunde chache. Kama kuna moja ya sekta ambazo zimeathirika zaidi, nimekuwa na changamoto nyingi japo katika masuala ya ugatuzi, ni sekta ya afya. Kaunti ya Murang'a ndio mko na Kang'ata Care na meka labda mipangilio mingine kuhakikisha kwamba ile sekta inashughulikiwa, lakini wewe kupeana wosia wako kwa taifa labda na kaunti zingine japo katika sekta ya afya kwenda mbele, unaweza kusema kipi kifanyike?
Jambo la kwanza lenye ningependa kifanyike ni kuhakikisha tuko na kila county kama vile tulipisha policy yetu ya health policy, pia tuko na mpango ya kuimprove services za health, na kwa ile mpango tumehakikisha tunataka kurevamp ile kitu yenye inaitwa FIF ama kile inaitwa Facilities Improvement Fund. Hiyo ni kitu yenye tumeweka kwa ile sheria yetu ya county kuhakikisha ati kuna pesa takriban zenye zinawekwa kwa kila hospitali, kama ni health center, kama ni dispensary, kama ni level 3 hospital ama level 4 hospital, pesa zinazokuwa kwa hiyo hospitali za kuimprove services. Kama kuna kitu inayovunjika, hawahitaji kukuja Murang'a kukuja kwa gavana kumwambia kuna kitu imevunjika. Wako na pesa ya kutengeneza hiyo kitu hapo. Lakini kama Murang'a pia tunatengeneza na ultramodern level 5 hospital pale upande wa Makenji, ndio tuhakikisha services za wananchi zina hawaendi kaunti zingine kutafuta services za a level 5 hospital. So hii ndio maneno yenye tungependa kuambia county, waacha waweke maendeleo yao kwa sheria inayotokana na assembly yao.
Sawa. Utaruhusu tukomea hapo kwa leo kwa sababu ya muda?
Lakini ningependa tu kusema tu jambo moja kwa vijana. Vijana waitikie ati wao si viongozi wa kesho, lakini viongozi wa leo. Na ningependa kumalizia na quote moja yenye nayopenda sana zaidi. Labda ungenikubalisha niseme kwa kimombo.
Sawa.
Vijana wetu saa zingine ningependa tu kuambia tu jambo moja. What most people call luck, it's when opportunity meets a prepared mind. Ni hali ya vijana kuhakikisha wako prepared when opportunity meets them. Ndio wanaweza kuichukua na wanakimbia nayo. Na hivyo ndivyo vijana wetu wataweza kusaidika wakiweza kujua opportunity ziko. Asante.
Shukran zaidi mheshimiwa.
Asante.
Bila shaka vijana wamesikia kwamba opportunity sama nafasi zipo kwa sana. Unaweza jitokeza, na kama kijana pia chukua changamoto. Naibu gavana wa kaunti ya Murang'a Bwana Steven Munania ambaye ni wa umri wa miaka 29 pekee, lakini anafanya vizuri. Siku nyingine utaweza kumleta hapa. Ningependa kusema shukrani sana kwa mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1 na vile msikilizaji wa KBC Radio Taifa kwa kuzungumza nasi. Mambo ni mengi katika mitandao, tutakuwa tunazidi kuangazia. Waelekezi wangu asante sana Bilusi, asante bwana Onditi, asante sana wapiga picha na kila mmoja ambaye amefanikisha makala haya ya Jumanne ya leo. Nasema shukrani zaidi, bila kusahau kaimu mkurugenzi bwana Samuel Maina na vile Bi Mary Daraja. Kutoka kwangu Dora Manya, kwa sasa tunakomea pale na kutakia utazamaji mwema vipindi vyetu na vile usikilizaji mwema wa KBC Radio Taifa.
Asante.
No, I don't think you're ready for that one yet.
What happened to not hogging the ball?
Yes, you could hog. I just think you're not ready yet.
Aki baba mwenye nikikupata huku wewe, yani unibia mbao yangu, ukamkukunywa. Hiki kibaba ni kiera gani? Hiki kibaba ni... Wacha nikushike wewe.
Abuda, kuna noma nini?
Labda tuambie.
Si raha tuna noma. Arani kujitoa tuko najitoa.
So you said you're showing me evidence. I want to see it for myself. Plus the little boys, kwani what are they going to do? Ziggy! please stop. Please, idea. Someone help us.
Charlene, does your father know what you're doing? Does your date know the truth? And Jenny, does she know?
Jenny!
Stop calling me that.
Why can't I call you by your name?
Because I'm not Jenny. Can you pretend that we don't know each other?
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
At my workplace, there's a girl like you. Oh, actually, she is like you when you were young. So much about her makes me confused.
Why don't you tell him what I came here for? Tell him!
Stop it. That's enough.
Go ahead! Why don't you tell him? Ask her what happened,
I'm
Dad!
not interested. This whole thing's over.
Just get out of my house. I don't want to see you, simple as that. And it's better if we forget about what happened between us.
What's going on between you and Amparo?
Yes, I accept.
What? Yes to marrying me?
Yes. Alonso, why? Why did you do this to me? I loved you. Why did this have to happen to me?
So you have a girl now, young man? Is she someone I know?
Now, according to data released by the WHO, that was on 14th of February, actually that is this month, did indicate that Kenya is still among the top 5 countries in Africa with highest infections of cholera. That is what you have been reeling with as a country. In fact, as early as this month, you're recording about 72 deaths. Slightly above 4,000 Kenyans infected with this disease. Not forgetting about the 17 counties where, cholera has really taken prevalence. That is what you're set to converse with my guest right about now, just to help us understand where we are as a country, the situation in terms of data and statistics, and also what they are doing as a, organization in conjunction with the Ministry of Health to deal with the outbreak of cholera. I am holding court with Kelly Habala, who is the Deputy Medical Coordinator at MSF. Kelly, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Just before we get to the data and the numbers, that's what we'll be doing in the next 30 minutes. But for the purpose of context and understanding what exactly you're doing in partnership with Ministry of Health, first things first, MSF, what is it? What does it do?
Yeah, MSF is an acronym for Medicine Sans Frontières, which is a French name. But in English, it's translated as Doctors Without Borders. So Doctors Without Borders is an international, independent humanitarian and medical organization that offers support to populations that have been affected by what we may call man-made and natural disasters. For man-made disasters, example would be conflict that is causing populations to get displaced and therefore they get into precarious both humanitarian and medical situation that their needs need to be addressed. In terms of natural, of course, we support also communities that have been hit by the disasters. For example, floods or even drought, and of course disease outbreaks like the current cholera situation.
So you can basically say, I mean, just the name serves its purpose. Doctors Without Borders, quite literally. And this spans across various counties, or there's some specificity as far as that is concerned?
Yeah, it's various counties. Actually, I would say the whole of Kenya. But also to say that internationally, we are in about 70 countries in the whole globe. But intervening in different thematic areas in terms of healthcare provision. For example, in the country here in Kenya, we are having a non-communicable disease program in the western region. This is Homa Bay County. And in addition to this, we are also, supporting MOH, of course, in collaboration to respond to the cholera situation in Homa Bay. We have some cholera cases that are still ongoing there. In Nairobi, we are supporting the Eastlands region in terms of offering SGBV care. This is sexual gender-based violence care. In Mathare, we have a center there. But also we have a youth program in Dandora, which we are focusing on youth health needs. For cholera, also we are supporting Mama Lucy, Kibaki Hospital, and Mbagathi. Other than Nairobi, we are also in Kiambu, where we are supporting Ministry of Health in conjunction with NASCOP to roll out a key population program, which is specifically meant for people who use drugs, which we call PWD. While in the northeastern region, we are based in Dadaab, a refugee camp, where we are offering primary health care, including secondary health care to the refugee population, including the host community. But also tied to this, also in Mombasa, we have a youth program that is focusing on, youth-friendly services, especially for 10 to 24-year-olds who are excluded in the healthcare system, and more specifically the key population, and also addressing the issues of mental health. And also just to destigmatize, service exclusion for this specific population. But in the whole country, we have a component of emergency response that we scan through the whole country to look at what we've called man-made or natural disasters. So of course we offer emergency support. For example, due to the ongoing drought that has been raging for the last couple of years, we have been involved in offering nutritional programming or nutrition support programs, including water and sanitation in this region. With the just ended Ebola outbreak in Uganda, where Kenya has been on high alert. We've been also involved at the national level together with the Incident Management Committee, just to look at EVD, Ebola viral disease guidelines, and how Kenya should be prepared for response in case of an Ebola outbreak.
Yeah, and we almost did have the same. Was it late last year when it was emanating from Uganda? Was it?
Yeah,
so clearly just
November,
November, well said. So clearly just listening to what you are enumerating, there's really quite a lot you're dealing with and you're handling as far as this Doctors Without Borders is concerned. And momentarily we'll look at the training, how this one goes, because looking at the different counties you mentioned, the different diseases, I would want to imagine that really quite intensive training might be going into this before even deployment. But we'll come to that in a bit. But before then, you've really talked about cholera in your response, as you're talking about basically what you're doing. And just looking at the statistics, we're talking about, is it 16 or 17 counties thereabout? Counties Nairobi, Tana River, Kiambu, where these cases of cholera are being recorded. And in Kenya alone, we have 47 counties. So one would ask, what is so peculiar about the 17 counties that would record high cases of cholera? What is it?
Yeah, no, there's quite a number of confounding reasons. Yeah, of course, one thing you realize that most of the counties now that are having a cholera outbreak, they are kind of restricted to the northeastern region. Quite a number. Of course, we have counties like possibly Homa Bay from the west, but that stands out as an outlier. Of course, Nairobi, because of the reasons that we'll mention shortly.
Yes.
But just to start with the northeastern region, of course, quite a lot of dynamic is happening there. One, we have an influx of new arrivals from the neighboring countries. And this is because of the drought. We've seen the drought situation in Somali. It's increasing in intensity. We've seen in Ethiopia, but more so in Somali. So we have migrants who are getting into the country, and then they are conglomerating in the refugee camps. Therefore, if you have an increased population, but the infrastructure for the amenities is not increased, that's a risk for cholera, because you realize that the quantity of water that was consumed by one household 1 year, 2 years ago, it's shrinking, because now you have an additional population that has to consume the same water. Space is the same, and then of course sanitary amenities. We have, an increased ratio for, people per number of pit latrines. So you find that now with increased population, people cannot access even the basic sanitary amenities like pit latrines. Of course, with the drought also comes malnutrition. Because if you don't have food variability, if you're not eating a balanced diet, possibly you are consuming one type of food, you already have a negative impact on your immune system. And then the other thing is, even if you had one type of food, but the quantity is not enough, it worsens again that. So you realize that with malnutrition also, in addition to other comorbidities, and then this population is prone to have many other diseases, even not only cholera.
So then what you're saying is that just with what we've been dealing with as a country, the drought cases you've been reporting and recording, this is actually what is skyrocketing to now what we have as a country dealing with issues, the cholera, so to speak, in these specific counties, just because of that.
No, we would say it's part of the reason.
It's part of the reason.
But of course, other things that is driving this, we have also conflict in the region that now is making people to move. When you move because of insecurity situation, possibly where you sleep does not meet the minimum, needs or comforts of a human being. Because if you manage to move, you don't move with your house. You probably move with a small, so you'll sleep out in the cold. You're going a place where there's no toilet. Any water you get on the road, as much as is little, is not treated. You feel thirsty, you have to take it.
And you'll take just any water.
So all these are
contributing factors.
But also the other thing from the health perspective, also I think there's a lot of dynamic happening in the just healthcare sector that we also continuously need to improve our surveillance systems.
In what regard?
So that we are able to improve our systems on to detect, suspicious cases early, and then our response team as a general healthcare fraternity to move in fast. If you have one case or two cases, sometimes it's easy to contain when you have an alert or an alarm if you respond to it in early time. Otherwise, it spreads to many more.
Thank you.
In Nairobi, to be more specific, you can see also there's an increase of population. There's an obvious rural-urban migration. So there's population increase, and therefore it's causing overstretch or overstretching, use of resources. And this includes, for example, water. That is in Nairobi, so that probably is not adequate in some settings, especially raw resource settings. Also, sanitary amenities, toilets are not enough. Because of increased population, we are also having a leakage of the sewer system, which may be, interacting with the drinkable water.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, so then does that mean that the same reasons as to why we are having these high numbers of cholera outbreaks or cases in Nairobi is the same as is in Kiambu in terms of factors and reasons? Because earlier on you had said that when you look at these counties, a good number of them are ailing from the northern part of the country. But here we are talking about Nairobi, Kiambu, Homa Bay. So this influx of people from different parts is largely or partly what is contributing to this?
We would say, there is some correlation. We would say, because of course we know counties like Nairobi, Kiambu, they are quite fluid also in terms of movement, travel, population increase, and this causes overstraining on available, especially drinkable water.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I hear you. So, Kelly, might you be in a position to tell us where we are as far as these numbers is concerned? Because from what I checked, as early as February, we had recorded about 72 deaths just ailing from this particular outbreak. Looking at some of these interventions, and also we'll touch on them in a short while, but then has this number reduced? Is it the same? Is it increasing? Where are we in terms of data?
Yeah, of course, cumulatively the number are increasing.
It's increasing?
For now, we have towards 5,000. I think by end of last week.
That's what, the number of cases or deaths?
No, cases
just reported
cases.
As
cholera cases is about 4,800.
Yes, 892.
Yeah. We have also a slight increase in deaths, which is 85 cases as per end of last week, with what now we call a case fatality rate of 1.8%, which for cholera that is fairly high, because we should be aiming. This means that if you have cholera, you need to have treatment because it's treatable in good time, so that we avoid some deaths. So of course any death rate that is above 1% for cholera, that we consider it quite high. However, of course, through the Ministry of Health and collaboration of other partners, there has been some response in these specific counties, and the cases are coming down, in terms of daily numbers. So we can see a downward trend, but of course it's too early to celebrate. I think we should continue to mount this response and to stay vigilant, because as you may know, that cholera is transmitted through fecal-oral. Meaning through human waste, and then you ingest the bacteria through either contaminated water or food. We are looking towards having a rain season in the coming 1 month or few weeks. So of course it causes some wash away and contamination of existing water bodies. So it's just to caution all of us not to celebrate early, but to be cautious, possibly to prepare for a possible wave in case an outbreak may happen because of the oncoming rain season.
Okay. I want to move to interventions, but before then, and just perhaps you would elucidate a bit on this one, because you did touch on the factors, but also is the current climatic conditions and just also where we are as a country part of the reasons as to why we are seeing these cases, and if so, why?
I would say yes, because of course we know globally we have climate change issues, which is mainly linked to global warming. That has caused now in Kenya, to be more specific, a prolonged drought situation than what we've seen in the previous decades. So if you are having a prolonged drought, then it means you're having water scarcity, because over time the water tables, we've seen in some countries, especially in arid and semi-arid counties, where they were having, you know, several rivers, but by now all these rivers are dry. So they only have a water point where they are lucky to get some partners or the ministry or the government supporting them to get water. But then you have the whole village and everyone in the neighborhood coming to the same water point. Humans are drinking, you know, they are also pastoralists, so they keep livestock, which also need to take water. So, I mean, with that kind of sharing for, a limited resource, chances of contamination are high. And then, of course, what we said about malnutrition, that, of course, climate change causing drought, and then you enter into a prolonged malnutrition situation. So most of the people could be walking out there in these regions that, their immune systems or their nutritional status is not up to optimal. So in case of any disease, not only limited to cholera, they are vulnerable to suffer disease. They may not have suffered because their immunity may have worked that one out.
All right. Okay, I hear you. So then this just means that it's not just an issue of hygiene, sanitation, but there are various other factors as to why we are where we are as a country in regards to this cholera outbreak. But let's come to interventions, Kelly. The 2.2 million vaccines that were procured by the Ministry of Health. When you look at these 17 counties and the numbers, just as you've said, the numbers are continuing to increase. Is this enough? Is there more being done? What is happening?
Yeah, actually it's not enough. And as MSF, we are advocating for more vaccines. Of course, we understand that from the manufacturing standpoint, the stockpile is quite limited. And also therefore the countries in need, and if you narrow down to specific regions and communities, is quite a lot of need in terms of population numbers. So we continue to push for the concerned stakeholders to ensure there is adequate manufacturing and supply of this oral cholera vaccine that could save several health situations and also of course death due to cholera. In the country, of course, the 2.2 million is not adequate. Actually, some of the counties have ended this vaccination drive yesterday because it was scheduled to go on for 10 days. They have actually achieved this target. But the way the vaccine was distributed was also prioritized per county. The ones that were having active cases and up to a particular threshold of this number of cases. And even in these counties, not everyone in the county received. We have 4 counties that were prioritized for this oral cholera vaccine.
Which ones are this?
Garissa is one of them, Nairobi, Wajir and Tana River. But also when you go down... These are
counties with active cases?
Yeah, but if you go down and then you realize that even not the whole county as such, there were sub-counties also which were affected because some sub-counties had not reported some cases. But that is the best way you could do with a limited resource. You have to prioritize.
Yes.
Yeah, so this lobby continues so that we see that we have better coverage of cholera vaccine in the whole country.
Yeah, if we have to reduce on these numbers, now seeing that you're saying that this is preventable, then the vaccines might just be what we could be needing as a country, much as we would look into other issues and areas, but also that could be quite important. But again, also one would ask, even as you talk about these vaccines, is it for all populations, the young, old? How is it working? Yeah,
cholera vaccine is recommended for anyone who is 1 year and above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there enough sensitization being done as far as this vaccine rollout and uptake is concerned?
There is some sensitization that has been ongoing since the first case was reported on, I think, 8th of October. Ministry of Health and other partners continue to sensitize. Yeah, I think it's an ongoing course, because you may not say it's that adequate, because also the way sensitization is structured, they are paging it on resource availability. So you want to start or intensify, this sensitization in the regions that are currently affected, but then you slowly or continuously open it up to all other regions. But in general, as a health education message, yeah, we pass it to everyone on the prevention measures for cholera, that please always clean your hands with soap and water. Eat properly cooked food. Yeah. And also, of course, if there is provision for vaccine, then please request for it.
Yeah. And also, this is largely what you're equally doing as MSF, more of advocacy and sensitization on the same.
Yeah.
How has the reception been like in the areas that you've been in conjunction with MOH? Are they listening to what you're saying as far as hygiene is concerned, prevention measures, washing of the hands, cooking, eating properly cooked food, take the vaccine? Are they taking it in terms of whatever message you're putting to them?
Yeah, actually, I would say reception of these preventive messages in places where we've worked in collaboration with MOH has been good. And we applaud the community for this, because we've managed to engage, to pass the necessary message. Have open forums, where they ask questions for clarifications. And yeah, we can see the positive impact of this intervention. Although it's not adequate, yeah, but you can see some gains made out of this community engagement.
All right, I hear you. What questions might Kenyans be having, since you said that you equally open forums for Q&A, asking questions for clarifications, wanting to know more, get more insight and knowledge? What is this biggest questions that Kenyans are having as far as cholera is concerned?
Yeah.
From what you can remember, just being in the field.
No, what we've seen, they understand, of course, after these sessions have happened, and all the sensitizers, we have posters rolled out by Ministry of Health. They are having what we call a focus group discussion before vaccines roll out. We saw this. And yeah, in where public health restrictions have been recommended, either in market places or areas of congregation, we have seen communities improve their preventive measures.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, how long does this vaccine stay in one's body? Because it's good enough to say of the preventive measures, especially as far as sanitation, hygiene is concerned. But here we are just trying to look at better ways to deal with the issues of drought and movement from one place to another, one county to another. But then, so for this vaccine, which is what we are currently focusing on, how long does it stay in one's body to protect them?
Yeah. Of course, research is ongoing, but for now, the current vaccines that we are using, which is Shancol and Uvicol, which the country has brought in, they give you, one dose gives you immunity for at least 3 months. Yeah. If you are lucky to get 2 doses, then you'd be able to be protected for 2 to 3 years. Yeah, so for now, because of this global shortage, of course, the country has made provision for, populations to only receive 1 dose. We should protect them for at least 3 months to possibly 6.
Yes.
Yeah, and the focus is that at least with 1 dose, we should be able to, halt the current outbreak.
Now I understand why employing all the other various intervention methods is really very important, because 3 to 6 months is good, but not good enough. And just as you've alluded to, due to the global shortage, everyone almost wanting these vaccines. But also, Kelly, what are these symptoms that one should be looking at? Because you talked about Nairobi as well. Counties such as Kiambu, just within the city center, I shall say, what symptoms should one be looking at in these areas?
Yeah. So just before symptoms, also to reiterate on these preventive measures, and it is true as you put it that is not only the vaccine. It has its place in terms of prevention measures, and it's going to reduce the number of new cases for cholera. But for sure, we need to continue with the basic, water and sanitation preventive measures that we can do at an individual level. Boiling water, for example, if you have to. This is drinking water, and of course chlorinating it if you are not able to boil, and always try to eat well cooked food, and if there are fruits, you also make sure they are cleaned with clean water. Yeah.
All right. So then, just quickly about the symptoms.
Yeah.
As you conclude.
Yeah. So symptoms for cholera, the symptom number one, it's watery, profuse diarrhea, which is quite classical for cholera. And sometimes it's effortless. You don't feel like you need to pass stools. It may just come. In addition to this, there is vomiting, which is also quite common with most of the people infected with cholera. And then, of course, there are other now general symptoms like fatigue. You may have a headache or not. And what we see when these patients or whoever is infected with cholera comes before you, you realize that they are dehydrated. You'll see either if they are children, they have sunken eyes. There's what we call skin tagger. When you stretch their skin, it goes down slowly, and some of them actually would be feeling very thirsty. So that you'd realize that they are requesting for water. If he's a child or if he's an adult, he's going to take drinkable water quite frequent.
Yeah. So these are some of those signs and symptoms that one should be very key on.
Yeah.
Fatigue, headache, vomiting, dehydration, sunken eyes, especially for children. There should be like a telltale signs. If you see, especially all of them, especially at once, should tell you something is not correct.
It's amiss.
Something is amiss.
But I would want to, share to the public the most common one would be diarrhea. That should give you a sign. And this diarrhea usually is watery and profuse. We have some cases, of course, with diarrhea which is not watery, profuse. Those are isolated cases, but usually you'll have diarrhea and then vomiting. Or nausea.
These are the key ones. Diarrhea, profuse ones, and vomiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is a good place to end this conversation. Good place to end this conversation. Thank you so much, Kelly, for your time, for your valuable inputs, helping us understand where we are as a country, and just also what we can do as a society, as a people, you and I, much as we want to wait for the government to procure more vaccines, but what we can do in our own small way to at least assist you and I, just assist Kenyans as far as this cholera outbreak is concerned. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And also just to make possibly a last call. Of course, other than lobbying for this vaccine deployment, I think it is also important that partners increase also this humanitarian and medical support because of these other factors that we see, malnutrition response, water and sanitation. Because if we focus on vaccine alone and nobody is offering water and sanitation solution, we need more pit latrines in this region. We need safe drinking water in this region. And then finally, for MSF, also for well-wishers who may wish to make donations, we have a website, www.msf.org. So if you go to this website, you'll be able to find directions on how to offer donations.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is Kelly Habala, the Deputy Medical Coordinator, MSF. Definitely what has formed center of our conversation. And this last hour of the program is just looking at where we are as a country as far as the cholera outbreak is concerned. Good place to end this conversation. But before we sign out, Ram Aguko is just popping from the other side of the studio. Ram. See how you switched places with the guest very quickly. Yeah, just as yeah. Switch spaces very fast. Hakuna kupoteza time. Hakuna kupoteza wakati. Like pop and you're done.
That was a good conversation.
Yes.
I loved it. it.
We have to know where we are. I mean, cholera.
Yeah.
You can imagine counties like Nairobi, Kiambu. You could only think of counties in the northern part, especially as far as getting adequate water supply is concerned, but in our very own. So it's good enough to know where we are, what interventions are being done by different organizations as well as the Ministry of Health, and what you and I can do. And eat properly cooked food.
Yeah. But all the bachelors out there, eat some good food. I know there's
to all the bachelors. Did you just have to say that?
I don't know how. Do you know a bachelor around your home that is in need of such information?
Are you saying they're not eating anyway?
Bachelors have a problem.
I wouldn't go there. I refuse to be part of that conversation. Tukifunga hiki tu Ram.
Yes. And of course, we want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you that has been part of this conversation. Thank you. This is Good Morning Kenya. It has been a pleasure being with you. Thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1. It's a wrap. Till tomorrow again at from 6:30.
You want to take us to 6, eh?
Karibu 6. Akili yangu imekumbuka enzi.
From 6:30 it is all the way to 10.
Asante. It has been a pleasure on my end. My name is Ram Aguko. Thank you so much. May God bless you. May God bless the work of your hands. Eat healthy. Cook well. Bachelors.
See you tomorrow. Have a good morning.
Enjoy a selection of the best. Regina Ray and Tingazi.
Bado hujamwambia unamlike. Umerealize jamwachilia mkono kutoka nikuje hapa.
Love blossoms in Mexico with the Trier sisters in Las Bandidas.
I beg you, please don't go.
I want you to be the happiest man in the world with a woman who appreciates and respects you.
An array of music rave.
Make me lie when I don't want to.
Blues.
You are my everything.
Two local gems. And we sit to chat with the Diambo.
You know, I can't even tell whether you're looking at me, seeing me. With the Louis Vuitton.
Classic comedy.
Makono too. Say that
again. Enjoy the Divas programming this February only on KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
At KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
Hii ni Mitikasi leo, makala kutoka BBC. Yaliomo: viongozi wa nchi za Afrika wakutana mjini Addis Ababa wikendi hii kwa mkutano wa AU unaotarajiwa kugusia masuala ya usalama, uchumi na biashara. Baadaye mvutano kati ya Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo na wawekezaji wa Uchina kuhusu madini na uwekezaji wa miradi ya miundombinu. Kisha tutaangazia uhaba wa nyumba barani Afrika, huku zaidi ya Waafrika milioni 200 wakiishi katika vitongoji duni. Tunakujia kutoka Nairobi, Kenya. Twende kazi. Swadakta, karibu katika habari za biashara zinazokuhusu, uchambuzi wa kina na mahojiano. Mimi ni Peter Mwangangi. Viongozi wanachama wa mataifa 55 wa Umoja wa Afrika AU watakutana kwa kikao maalum wikendi hii mjini Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, ikiwa ni miaka 60 tangu kuundwa kwa umoja huo uliojulikana kama OAU, yani Organization of African Unity kwa kimombo. Miaka 20 baadaye, muungano huo ulibadilisha jina na kuwa AU, na sasa ikiwa imesalia miaka 40 kabla ya ajenda ya mwaka 2063 ambayo inaendelea kutekelezwa, mkutano huu unatarajiwa kutathmini hatua zilizopigwa kufikia sasa na mipango ya shirika hilo kuafikia malengo yake. Aidha, ni miaka 2 baada ya kuanza kutekeleza soko huru la biashara barani Afrika maarufu kama AfCFTA, lakini mafanikio hayajakuwa makubwa. Mataifa ya Afrika yamekuwa yakipambana na athari za janga la COVID-19, vita nchini Ukraine na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Kutokana na hayo, nchi 22 za Kiafrika ziko katika hatari ya kushindwa kulipa madeni pamoja na kudorora kwa uchumi. Sasa awali, mwenzangu Lucy Riley amezungumza na Afrikana Njuru ambaye ni mtaalam na mdadisi wa masuala ya sera, uchumi na uongozi ambaye yuko Addis Ababa, na ameeleza zaidi kuhusu swala hili.
Utekelezaji wa AfCFTA ni muhimu kwa sababu kiwango cha biashara kati ya nchi za Kiafrika ni chini sana, hasa ukilinganisha na biashara ambazo tunafanya na nchi za nje. Kwa hivyo AfCFTA itasaidia bara letu kufikia Agenda 2063 ya Umoja wa Afrika kwa kuongeza biashara kati ya nchi zetu. Na takwimu inaonyesha kwamba AfCFTA ina uwezo wa kuongeza ajira Afrika kwa kiwango cha milioni 17.9. na pia kutoa watu milioni 50 kutoka umaskini kwa 2033. Na tunatarajia viongozi kujadili na kukubaliana jinsi ya kurahisisha biashara kati yetu, hasa kwa kurahisisha uvukaji kwa mipaka ili watu waweze kusonga kati za nchi jirani wakifanya biashara. Pia tunatarajia viongozi kukubaliana juu ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, yani climate change, kilimo na pia miundombinu, yani infrastructure, zote ambazo zitakuwa muhimu ili kuunganisha soko za biashara za Kiafrika.
Na ni changamoto gani ambazo zinazuia mpango huu kutimika, na Afrika inahitaji kuchukua hatua gani ili kukabiliana nazo?
Vikwazo visivyo vya ushuru, yani non-tariff barriers katika mipaka yetu ni changamoto kubwa sana. Hivi vikwazo hupoteza muda mwingi kwa watu ambao wanataka kuvuka pale mipaka, na kwa hivyo pia tunapoteza pesa mingi sana na inazuia urahisi wa kuvuka. Kwa hivyo pia tunajaribu kuangazia vikwazo haya. Pia ukosefu wa usalama na vita kati ya nchi mbalimbali, haswa Sahel region, zinaathiri bara za Afrika sana.
Je, una imani kwamba kongamano hili litaleta utekelezaji wa AfCFTA?
Ndiyo, na tunatumai kwamba wakuu wa nchi za Umoja wa Afrika katika kongamano hili watazingatia maendeleo ya utekelezaji wa ASFTA katika ripoti ambayo itaangalia maendeleo ya miaka 10 zilizopita na kukubaliana jinsi ambavyo tutasonga miaka 10 zingine kwa swala hili. Na pia tunatarajia kwamba wataamua kutekeleza sera ambazo walikubaliana ndani ya agano ya ASFTA, yani policies, na kutekeleza katika nchi zao.
Nirekebishe tu kwamba ni kikao cha kawaida na wala sio kikao maalum cha Umoja wa Mataifa wa Afrika. Kwa sasa tutupie macho taarifa zingine za biashara kutoka Afrika na kimataifa, ambapo mkaguzi mkuu wa mahesabu katika taifa la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo ametaka wawekezaji wa Uchina kuongezea ufadhili wa ziada wa dola bilioni 17 katika majadiliano yanayoendelea kuhusu makubaliano ya mwaka 2018 ya madini na miundombinu. Wawekezaji hao waliahidi kuwekeza dola bilioni 3 katika miradi ya miundombinu, huku Kongo ikitarajiwa kuwapa 68% ya umiliki katika kampuni ya kitaifa ya madini. Na polisi mjini Lagos, Nigeria wamekomesha ghasia zilizotokea Ijumaa asubuhi katika baadhi ya maeneo hayo baada ya waandamanaji kufunga baadhi ya barabara kuu. Watu hawa wanalalamikia ukosefu wa sarafu mpya za naira. Haya yamejiri wiki moja tu kabla ya taifa hilo lenye zaidi ya watu milioni 200 kushiriki katika uchaguzi mkuu. Hii ni Mitikasi Leo kutoka BBC. Tutakayoangazia hivi punde uhaba wa nyumba barani, huku zaidi ya Waafrika milioni 200 wakiishi katika vitongoji duni. Tusonge mbele sasa. Idadi ya watu katika miji ya bara la Afrika inaongezeka kwa kasi na kuongeza mahitaji ya nyumba za bei nafuu. Kiwango cha ukuaji wa miji barani ni takriban mara 11 zaidi ikilinganishwa na bara Ulaya, huku ujenzi wa nyumba za bei nafuu ukishindwa kumudu ukuaji huu. Sasa nchini Nigeria, ukosefu wa makazi huathiri kati ya watu milioni 14 na 16, na katika nchi jirani ya Ghana upungufu huu ni wa takriban nyumba milioni 1.7, na huko Afrika Kusini uhaba wa makazi ni takriban milioni 3.7 kwa mujibu wa shirika la Habitat for Humanity. Mnamo mwaka 2020 miji ya Afrika ilipokea zaidi ya watu 40,000 kila siku, na hii ilimaanisha kuwa ukosefu wa nyumba